This is exactly where you want to be listening to us. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
Swing and a miss. Mikolas has struck out 5. He's set down 10 in a row. Jim Hayes, this is more like it. As Miles gets a swing and a miss. That's his 6th strikeout. That's going to be the end of the line for Mikolas, who pitched a great game tonight. 5 2/3 innings. Mikolas needed a night like this, and so did the Cardinals. A well-deserved ovation as he leaves with a 2-run lead.
He mixed well enough to keep them off balance, and we needed it, man. We talked enough about it. We needed him to have a bounce-back type of an outing, and that's exactly what he did.
That is what it sounded like last night on FanDuel Sports Midwest. That voice you just heard was, of course, the manager, Ollie Marmol, after the game, talking about Miles Mikolas' start. And I think we've done something that's a bit unfair to Miles Mikolas, where we have put him into the same category as Erick Fedde. I feel like anytime there's a conversation right now about the Cardinals' rotation, it's like, all right, well, you've got Sonny Gray, you've got Matthew Liberatz, where I feel good about them. And then you have Andre Palante, who at least he's young. He struggles sometimes, but at least he's young. And then in the third category, it's get rid of these guys immediately. Erick Fedde, gotta go. Miles Mikolas, gotta go. And if you look at the overall numbers, yes, they are similar between Mikolas and Fedde. Fedde's been worse, but they're not good for Mikolas either. And I'm not here to cape for Miles Mikolas. I'm not here to tell you that he's some great starter that you should be rooting for every time that he gets out onto the mound and feeling good about it. But the Cardinals this season, when Miles Mikolas is on the mound, they have a record of 9-9. They are a .500 baseball club when Miles Mikolas is your starter. He has a sub-5 ERA, which, again, is not good. I'm not selling you on that. However, when he goes out there, you can typically expect close to 6 innings, and he typically gives up like 3 or 4 runs. That's a typical Miles Mikolas start. In other words, a really decent number 5 starter. The problem for the Cardinals is they have 3 of those. They have Miles Mikolas, they have Erick Fedde, who's even worse, and they have Andre Palante. They do not have right now a number 3 or a number 4 starter in their rotation. They have a big donut hole there. So last night, when you get that start out of Miles Mikolas, 5 2/3 innings, only gave up 2 hits, doesn't walk it, only walks the 1, it strikes out more batters than you've, generally speaking, been expecting from him this season. I think Mikolas is the kind of guy, and I know this is a hugely unpopular opinion here in St. Louis. I think Mikolas is a pitcher that you can have in your rotation, even, yes, if you're a contender. I do. I truly believe that. I think you have a lack of a margin for error with him in your rotation, and you've got to be really good elsewhere. But, like, the LA Dodgers would take that from Miles Mikolas. They would, because they desperately need somebody to give them innings right now. The Atlanta Braves this weekend, now they're a bad team overall, but the Atlanta Braves have, like, one starter that they know that they can start this weekend. For the entire 3-game series, they have announced 1 starter so far.
Tonight.
That's it. They have no idea where their other innings are coming from over the weekend, much less moving forward. So there are a lot of teams that would desperately like to have this. It's not perfect. It's not even pretty all the time. But it is, generally speaking, relatively effective. This is what a number 5 starter looks like. And yes, you're paying too much for it. That's a sunk cost. It is what it is. I think we have put Miles Mikolas and Erick Fedde into the same bin, and I don't think that is necessarily fair to Miles Mikolas.
No, when it comes to Miles Mikolas, it's always going to appear workmanlike. Right now, over the last month, over the last 7 starts before last night's game, which you had to have that rubber match, it had been downright ugly. You're talking about a 0-4 mark. You're talking about a 7+ ERA. But BK, it goes back to what we referenced actually off air. And for me, Miles Mikolas still the ability, the consistent ability to work fairly deep into games to give you the innings. And yes, he's giving up the hard contact. It's going to be that on a number of different occasions. But this feels a little strange to say. You almost would rather you be more inclined to get that contact because it means he's not constantly issuing free passes to lineup after lineup. We ran through the numbers. It actually, you have to go all the way back to May the 17th to find the last game, the last contest in which Mikolas actually issued more than 1 walk. Yes, you're going to have to live with some of the games, some of the line drives. But as the skipper, Oli Marmol himself has said as well, when you're talking about having the ability to move it around, to mix it up, which he did to great effect last night. Yes, it was the Washington Nationals lineup, but by the same token, it really transforms, I think, the way in which you can now expect to get the results you hope to obtain from this next series against the Braves. Had to happen.
Yeah, you can't eliminate a start. I understand. That's part of his resume. However, since that Boston start for Miles Mikolas, which was an absolute disaster, an abject failure in every sense of the word, since then, Miles Mikolas has made 16 starts for the Cardinals. And in those 16 starts, he's going an average of 5 1/3 innings, and he has an ERA of 4.3. If I told you right now that Miles Mikolas in 2025, or if I told you before the season that Miles Mikolas in 2025 would finish the season with a 4.3 ERA, every one of us would have hit the button and say, yeah, that's a pretty good year for Miles Mikolas. He had one really horrific start, and he's had a couple others where you don't love the outing, right? Like against the Cubs. That's not a good start. But he gives you 6 innings, and I'm not throwing a party for him, but it is something that you can point to and say, at least he did this, though. When Erick Fedde has bad starts, they all look like Miles Mikolas' start against Boston, where he can't get through 3. It's non-competitive. He ejects himself from the game because he is so bad that he's thrown so many pitches in the first 2 or 3 innings that you're worried that he's going to get himself hurt because he's at 60 pitches by the time you're through 2 1/3 innings. You're like, I've got to get him out of there to save him from himself.
Good golly, the command.
And when you do that, you fry your bullpen. It not only affects you that day, it also affects you in the next game and in the game after that. It totally changes the way that Oli is able to manage, not only for that day, but for multiple days. That hasn't really happened with Miles Mikolas since April 6th. I mean, we're talking about 3 months now where every 5th day, he gives you a competitive outing, even if it's not great. So, again, I'm not here to tell you that, man, you should be super excited about the results that you're getting out of Miles Mikolas. But I am saying it's a bit unfair for him to be tied into what Erick Fedde has become. And this gets us to Erick Fedde. Let's go ahead and hear the announcement as relayed by the Fast Lane yesterday right here on 101 ESPN.
Erick Fedde, the Cardinals have announced, will in fact be on the rubber when the team plays this weekend.
Oli was asked about Erick Fedde starting on Saturday, and he says, we're going to give him another shot at it. Then Oli was also asked if there are reasons for that decision beyond on-field performance. He said in part, no doubt about it. Yep.
I appreciate that the Cardinals are being honest about why they're starting Erick Fedde. I do. I can't believe they're doing it. I can't. I would not be doing this. I said from the moment that Oli Marmol went to the podium on, I think it was Sunday after his start, and he said, hey, we can't keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. I thought then, all right, they've come to the conclusion, that's it. We will not see Erick Fedde prior to the All-Star break. Maybe they say we'll take a 1-start gap here. We'll give him a break. We'll call up McGreevy for this start, and then you'll see him again, maybe 1 or 2 starts prior to the deadline. Maybe we see that. But otherwise, I think it's entirely possible they just they say, you know what, Fedde, we're done here. We're going to go ahead and either put you on the IL or we're going to go ahead and trade you right now. We'll get aggressive. We'll jumpstart the market. They've decided not to do that. None of the above. They're not calling up Michael McGreevy. They're going to give Erick Fedde that start on Saturday. I'm shocked by it. I'm not shocked by much anymore from the St. Louis Cardinals. I am really surprised by this. And here's why. If you are going to sell your fans on the notion that we are a buyer because we believe ourselves to be a contender, we think we can and will make it to the playoffs, the margin for error for this team is so slim that these starts by Erick Fedde could be the reason why you don't make it. And if you don't end up making it because you started Erick Fedde in 1, 2, maybe 3 starts prior to the deadline, that is on you. And you as an organization have to wear that. And we know where this goes to. This ain't on the manager. The manager made his thoughts very well known, as well as he could, at least publicly, without throwing the player under the bus.
Right.
That, hey, I think there are other options that maybe give us the best chance to win on Saturday. Other factors have come into this. My guess is they're thinking to themselves, hey, if we don't start Fedde on Saturday, Maybe other teams are spooked. They think he's hurt, or they don't get that extra sign of things maybe turning around for Fedde. Whatever it is, they believe that he can maybe recoup some value. Do I believe that? No. I think teams are smarter than that. I think teams know what Erick Fedde is for good and for bad. And if you're trading for him, you do so understanding what that means. So I don't think this really changes much. The Cardinals apparently disagree with my assessment on that. And I think when you get to the deadline and you're buying, and then you maybe lose a couple of games because you did this, you are speaking out of both sides of your mouth. Let me give you one more stat to back this up. All right, Bradford, I'm curious your thoughts on this. The Cardinals are 9-9 this season, as I mentioned, in games started by Miles Mikolas. Mm-hmm. They're 9-9 in games started by Andre Palante. They're 9-8 in games started by Matthew Liberatore. And they're 14-4 in games started by Sonny Gray. All right, so they're either at or above 500 in each of those four starters' starts. They are 5-13 this season when Erick Fedde starts on the mound.
I was just about to say, cue that Big Bird gif.
They're 5-13 when Fedde starts. There is no rationale other than, he said yesterday when asked about it, yeah, this is stuff that is beyond his on-field results. This goes beyond that. Well, of course it does, because there is nothing on-field that would lead you to start Erick Fedde on Saturday. You can't make an explanation for this other than we think teams across Major League Baseball will value him more if we start him on Saturday than if we don't. That's it. That's the entire explanation, and nobody in the organization can convince me otherwise.
You spoke a couple of minutes ago about selling the fan base on making a run and basically speaking out of both sides of your mouth. Well, that's to say nothing of essentially selling your own clubhouse at this juncture. Now, we won't go too far down that road, but by the same token, I am curious here as to how it is going to play out this particular situation against this particular lineup. And it's been well stated, BK. It's not as if right now Atlanta is some great shakes, right? I was here last Friday when you were out with Tanner, and I was advocating for the Braves. You think at some point in time, this is a team, it is too loaded. The talent, offensively, it's too undeniable to continue to go down this road. But here we are with Atlanta, having dropped 8 of the past 10 games. You just dropped a series to the A's as well as the Baltimore Orioles. It's a feast or famine attack, but that's precisely what worries me about the start tomorrow night, because on one hand, you can say, all right, perhaps give us another sample of sorts as to what you could do, potentially Erick Fedde, to maybe elevate that value, elevate that profile ever so slightly. But odds are you can roll the dice and you're just as aggressive there. You're just as viable to give up maybe 5-6 runs against this attack. It really is a huge question, especially after, as I said, I think you've revised the prediction for this particular series. You took 2 of 3. You did what you had to do against the Nationals, and the Braves are so gettable at the moment. If Liberatore sets the tone accordingly this evening, it really throws into a little bit of disarray what you're going to see tomorrow night.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show. YouTube chat is available for you today at youtube.com/101ESPN-STL. Coming up at 11:45, we'll get to Ask Us Anything. If you guys have any questions, sports or otherwise, we'll answer those coming up at 11:45. In the 12 o'clock hour today, we are doing the line shifts every hour once again, as we did yesterday. In the 12 o'clock hour, we will be joined by Macadoodle Mike McKenna, former NHL goalie, will join us for the entire 12 o'clock hour. I know yesterday I said we'd talk Blues with Jamie. He wanted to talk Cardinals pitching, so that's what we did. Today with Mike McKenna, I promise you, we will be talking Blues from about 12 o'clock until 12:45.
Literal line shifts.
So yes. If you are a Blues fan, you want Blues content in the middle of July, this is the place where you can get it in the 12 o'clock hour. So stay tuned for that. In the 1 o'clock hour, we'll be joined in studio by Brad Thompson, the Cardinals analyst for FanDuel Sports Midwest. So stay tuned for that as well. Coming up in 15 minutes, Cardinals are tasked with quite the decision with their first round selection. We'll do a quick preview on their number 5 overall pick. But next, the Cardinals are at the early stages of Ivan Herrera maybe not playing catcher again. What does that mean for them? Not just for the here and now, but moving forward. We'll talk about that next here on BK and Ferrario.
Start your day with a morning after on 101 ESPN. Get in the know first on everything St. Louis sports with Tim McKernan, Doug Vaughn, and Martin Kilcoy. Listen to TMA weekday mornings from 7 to 11 a.m. on 101 ESPN. The morning after is presented by Brown and Crouppen Law Firm. The 101 Reward Center is always loaded up with awesome giveaways. And right now we have your chance to win a tailor-made golf bag. Enter to score that sleek tailor-made golf bag right now at 101ESPN.com or on your 101 mobile app powered by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. They are St. Louis. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
Alongside Bradford Bruns, I'm Brandon Kiley. T-Bone and Alex are out today. They'll be back in with me on Monday. We've got Mike McKenna joining us in the 12 o'clock hour and Brad Thompson in the 1 o'clock hour for the 11. It's just me and Bradford hanging out, having a good time, talking cards, maybe a college football 2-minute warning at some point in this hour as well. So we'll get into that as we go along here. Ask us anything coming up at 11:45. Bradford, the Cardinals made something clear yesterday. We will not see Ivan Herrera at catcher, probably for the entire remainder of the regular season.
At least.
Ollie Marmol said yesterday to reporters, Ivan Herrera is going to DH at Memphis for the next 4 days, so that takes you all the way up until the All-Star break. Because he's had 2 lower body injuries on the same leg, Ollie said that the Cardinals will be de-emphasizing his catching for the rest of the season. When asked if that would go beyond the year, Ollie said, quote, "I'd just like to finish the year with this being the case." So he's not going to be catching the rest of the season, and then they'll basically reassess, figure out where they're at, right? When I saw this yesterday, Ollie should not and did not say, yeah, that's it. He's never going to play catcher again. Don't even bring your gear to spring training, right? He didn't say that. My assumption is when reading this, I don't think we're going to see Ivan Herrera behind the plate again. I think you'll see something very similar to what they did with Wilson Contreras this past offseason, where it's like, hey, your bat is too valuable for us to go a month at a time without you in the lineup. And we've seen the results of that this season with Wilson Contreras. He got off to a really terrible start, but ever since, he's been a great hitter for the Cardinals, and they've needed those contributions in the middle of their lineup. So my assumption is Herrera's catching career more or less is done. Maybe you'll see it occasionally here or there. My guess is no. But my assumption is he's probably going to be changing positions. And that, to me, is fascinating. Because, first of all, for the immediate future, it changes the way that you're able to have flexibility with your lineup.
Oh, no doubt.
He's now your DH. Just flat out, you have a DH every day in your lineup. You have JD Martinez. He's not going to play in the outfield. He's not going to play in the infield. He's obviously not catching. He's purely going to be a DH for you. And that means with the outfield mix, okay, so you've got Burleson, you've got Lars Nootbaar, you've got Jordan Walker. Occasionally, Brendan Donovan has been playing out there. You add in second base to this conversation. Okay, now Nolan Gorman, and now the DH spot with Ivan Herrera. I have 6 players for 4 spots in my lineup. That's the immediate concern. The long-term concern is, where's he playing? What is going to be his new position? There seems to be 2 realistic options if you want him to play a position other than just DH. First base, Contreras and Burleson, or the corner outfield, everybody else. So this team has some big decisions to make. And so Bradford, in the immediate future, it means two somebodies are going to be left out, and maybe that plays into their deadline decision, similar to what we saw last year with Tommy Edman. And for the long term, it also plays into those decisions where you're going to have to figure out what Ivan Herrera's long-term position is, and that should influence who you're keeping around for the longer-term future and what that could mean for, Burleson or Contreras or Nootbaar or Walker, etc. Ivan Herrera could become the linchpin of a lot of the decisions that the Cardinals are making, both immediately and in the long-term future.
Yeah, the offensive linchpin at minimum, because we've outlined the names. To me, Donovan doesn't even enter into this conversation because he is locked in. But it is fascinating too, BK, when you really examine this situation and you think about how this, for the here, the now, and conceivably for the foreseeable future, it flies in the face. It really bucks away from the trend, the organizational philosophy that has been undertaken by the Cardinals. What I mean by that is you haven't been the organization to basically say, hey, one guy, you're entrenched in the DH spot. It's been that rotating position, right, for guys who need a blow, for even an Arenado on occasion, guys to be able to shift to that spot, and it's a rotating cast. If you are committing in the short-term future, which I think is clearly the right maneuver here for a number of different reasons, to Herrera at DH. It really shifts that paradigm potentially past this season. And I'm not quibbling with the logic whatsoever. I think it is smart. I think it is sound. You have to move beyond the premise here that for the second consecutive offseason, in all likelihood, we're seeing, okay, somebody moved permanently from behind the plate elsewhere. I still think there is a lot here in play as far as where exactly Herrera could end up long-term on the diamond. And I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility to say that the bat is so lethal. You want to see how much more that can be developed by focusing solely on that one facet of the game. I'm not sure that he isn't just the guy at DH moving forward. That's a conversation long-term for another day.
You need to have some kind of a position if possible.
If possible.
And I think it is possible. Like, I think you're going to have to teach him either how to play first base or how to play corner outfield. So at a minimum, it opens up that lineup spot. So, like, if, for example, Nolan Arenado is back next season, there will be days where he needs to DH, right? Or if Alec Burleson and Wilson Contreras return next season, there will be days where one or both of them, like, over the course of a week, need to get some time at DH. You'll go through a stretch similar to what you had in June, where you've got 20 games in 20 days, and guys just need days off of their feet. So you need that spot as a DH to open up. And on those days, he's going to have the ability to play somewhere. He's got to stand out of position somewhere. There's going to have to be, I go over to Baseball Reference and I see, like, it's not going to say designated hitter, and that's it. There's got to be something else along with that. So I'll be curious to see where they go with that. I think long term, maybe his most likely landing spot is designated hitter, and he becomes, Yordan Alvarez, JD Martinez. That's the type of player that he becomes. But those guys did play a position before they got to that place in their respective careers.
True.
And I think that's going to be the case for Herrera. You can't give up on him positionally at the age of, 22, 23 years old. I don't think that's a smart way to go about it.
So which is more viable for the club as currently constituted, or what is more practical? Because you're talking about first base where conceivably you still have a logjam. And then the
a lot of people
outfield
saying trade Wilson Contreras. I just don't see the reason why. Twofold. One, he doesn't want to be moved, so you've got a no trade clause. He doesn't want to move, so what are you going to do? And two, he's a good player. I know he's 33, but you don't have to go. We've gotten to this place where, you either have to be all young or all old. Sometimes it's okay to have guys that are in their later portions of their primes. Wilson Contreras is a good player. Keep him around for next year if he wants to be
The
here.
bat is there. It's playing decisively so. And mere months ago, you committed to the position switch for the express purpose of making sure you had that bat. You're reducing the injury concern. So I just go back to where you would conceivably have the fewest number, the least log jams, if you will. And right now with outfield, you're only going to get that much more complicated in the weeks, in the months to come. So that's what makes it so fascinating to dissect, because there is no easy answer here. Even if you think long-term, best possible scenario, he's going to be the DH, Herrera, that is, but you still need to somehow expand that versatility ever so slightly.
Yeah, you need to expand it. It's not a situation where he has to play 5 days a week in the outfield or 5 days a week at first base, but he's got to be able to go out there 2 to 3 times over the course of a week. And I think that's something he'll be able to do. He's a pretty good athlete. We did get this from the 618. But BK, Wilson Contreras' injuries were from catching. Sure, his good play behind there was declining, but he was still able to do the things that were necessary. Herrera cannot do anything. Learn from Yadi forever and still isn't good. This team needs it. Yes, Wilson Contreras' injuries were from catching, and Herrera's injuries are from running for the most part. Some of that could be, and the Cardinals would have more information on this certainly than I do on the outside looking in. Some of that is from the load management stuff, where when you're getting behind the plate, crouching all the time, he's a big dude. It could be where they've learned, hey, when he's catching every day, there's just more load on his legs. We want to get away from that, because that is something that eventually affects him as he's doing the other baseball activities. So that's clearly influencing their decisions here, and they've decided his bat is too valuable for us to not have him in the lineup. I think that's a smart thing to do. Somebody else on the text line said, don't you need an arm to play in the outfield? Seems like a little bit of a problem. Yeah, I remember talking about this with Tommy Edman when he was moved to the outfield, because Edman also did not have a good arm. And in the outfield, he had one of the weakest arms of any of the outfielders in Major League Baseball. And I asked Ollie Marmol about this. This was on the record. And Ollie said, hey, that's the last thing I care about. I care much more about his ability to get to the ball than I do his ability to have a big-time throwing arm. And so they prioritize that ability to get there. With Herrera, my guess would be they would say, we prioritize the bat, he's got to play somewhere. He's going to be in the lineup every day. Yeah, it's not ideal. He's not a great outfielder, but can he be passable? Can he do what Alec Burleson did, which is, hey, he's a fine athlete. He goes out there, he tries his hardest, and he's become a passable outfielder. I think Herrera could potentially become that.
And let me ask you this, the relative ease, and I'm not diminishing the work of which there has been plenty from the side of Wilson Contreras, but all things considered, the relative ease with which he has transitioned over to first base and become a more than adequate defensive option at that position. Somebody who had never played the position, any sort of consistency. Does that in any way color your opinion or influence the way in which maybe a Herrera could potentially do likewise at that position, not talking about just the outfield? What we've seen this year, because we thought there was going to be this striking drop-off. Everybody did. Goldschmidt, perennial Gold Glover candidate, to Contreras, complete unknown. But that hasn't been nearly as severe as we had envisioned.
Do I think he could play first is basically what you're asking?
Essentially, and well at that.
Sure. I don't know how well because it's hard to know, right? You don't know until you see it. But could he transition there? Sure, of course. Yeah, I could see him doing that. I could see him playing in the outfield. I could see him playing just fine in like a left field situation. I think he could be a C defender out there. That's probably good enough given how the bat plays in a corner outfield position. All of this goes back to, though, like, it's less about Herrera and what I think about his long-term plan, so on and so forth. It's more about how does this manipulate the roster? What does this mean for the guys that are currently on the roster and where they end up? I don't think Wilson Contreras is going anywhere. If he says, I want to be here, your hands are tied. It's like when Torrey Krug told the Blues, I'm not getting traded. Okay, well, we don't really have an option then because we can't trade you unless you accept the deal, right? The Cardinals are in the same spot right now with Wilson Contreras, where if he says no, then he's here. And he's your first baseman. So that eliminates that basically from the realm of the possible. And mind now you go to the outfield.
That's a pretty good problem to have. If that's a problem for you,
it's
considering
much better than the Krug problem, that's for sure.
Correct.
So I do think that eventually you'll potentially see him move to the outfield. I think that's probably the most likely scenario here. And that opens up a whole other can of worms with Jordan Walker and Lars Nootbaar and Brendan Donovan, Nolan Gorman, J.J. Weatherholt's coming into the mix, Alec Burleson being part of that conversation. There's a lot that has to be filtered through that influences that vine. It influences the offseason as well. In 15 minutes, we're going to get into Ask Us Anything. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show for any questions, sports or otherwise. We'll get to those in 15 minutes. But next, Cardinals are tasked with quite the decision when it comes to their first-round selection this year. Do you go with a high upside high school bat, the likes of which you haven't been able to acquire in, 25 years? Or do you go the typical Cardinals route and draft the college pitcher, which is basically a year away from reaching the big leagues? We'll talk about that decision, what goes into it next year on 101 ESPN.
101 ESPN is powered by Kaufman Townsley St. Louis's injury lawyers. Call 314-500-5000.
MLB is on ESPN. Tomorrow, Yankees and Cubs. Pre-game at 11:30. First pitch at 12:05. The MLB plays on 101 ESPN. 101 ESPN Sports Center.
Mikolas shines in series finale. Good morning. I'm Bradford Bruns. Your Sports Center update is driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Last night at Busch Stadium, Miles Mikolas hit the All-Star break with a flourish. 5+ innings, 6 strikeouts, 0 runs allowed as St. Louis toppled Washington 8-1. Mikolas nabbing his first victory since May 23rd. Cardinals continue their homestand. Roughly 8 hours from now, another National League East club, Atlanta, arrives then. Minors-wise, developments abound. Ivan Herrera begins rehabbing with Memphis, where J.J. Weatherholt also scores twice. Redbirds defeat Charlotte 8-1. Jordan Walker, meanwhile, homering, helping Springfield sweep its doubleheader. This Sports Center update was driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet plus Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at Londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
Giving you the picture, the real big St. Louis sports picture. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
Alongside Bradford Bruns, I'm Brandon Kiley. In 15 minutes, we'll get into Ask Us Anything. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for any questions, sports or otherwise. We'll get into those here in just a little bit. So the Cardinals have the number 5 overall selection this weekend. And in doing so, they're going to have a choice. Given what the players are that are available this season, especially in the top 5 or so, there are basically 3 college pitchers that seem to be of interest to the Cardinals. 2 are almost certainly going to be off the board. It seems like Cade Anderson, the LSU arm, and Liam Doyle, the Tennessee arm, are probably going in the top 3. So if those guys are off the board, and that seems to be the unanimous opinion, there's going to be 1 college pitcher, Jamie Arnold from Florida State most likely, and then a bunch of high school shortstops that are available for the Cardinals. There is also a highly touted high school arm that feels very out of the Cardinals' typical way that they go about things. So I suppose he could be the selection. It seems unlikely, though. So your decision, if you're the Cardinals, basically comes down to, do we go with the route that we typically do, which is college arm, especially a lefty? You know how much they love going that path. Mm-hmm. Easily projectable. Should be in the big leagues within the next, year and a half or so. Immediate action, like all of this stuff just feels very Cardinals-y. Doesn't mean it's a bad pick, but very Cardinals-y. Or do we go with a high school bet? We have no idea where they're going to play long term, but they play shortstop, so they've got the athleticism to kind of move across the diamond regardless of what we need. High upside. Probably won't see them at the big league level for, 4 years, realistically speaking. That seems to be the decision process that they're going to have to go through as we get closer to the draft on Sunday. Bradford, I've got my thoughts on this. What do you want to see the Cardinals do on Sunday? Not what you think they will do. What do you want them to do on Sunday?
I'm usually not somebody who travels down this road, but I kind of am trending in the direction of wanting more of that immediate gratification, right? And if it means more of a ready-made major league arm, I am enticed by that. And I'm not trying to be the prisoner of the moment here either when it comes to the whole entire organization and what the makeup is right now. But it is right now, you are situated in a position in which you aren't exactly that patient. If you are a fan, you're not exactly patient about even potentially developing, say, the next big bat in your organization. Are you willing to wait X number of years, especially when, I'm just going to say it, and he is a fast riser. We know he is ascending. People want to see BK. They want to see J.J. Weatherholt sooner rather than later. Now, if you're talking about malleable types, here's somebody who was drafted, obviously, middle infield prospects, but with the ability to move around the diamond as well. I'm just looking at the current state. I'm taking stock of the situation, and I kind of want an impact personnel member right here, right now. That's what I'm feeling at the moment.
So you want the pitcher?
I do.
I understand that side of things, and I get the pull because A, they're lacking pitching. You need to replenish the pitching pipeline. And B, there's immediate gratification, or at least sooner gratification.
We think.
What has this team failed to do for 15 years now. They've not developed a homegrown star, position player, right? The last close to or something resembling a star that the Cardinals have developed internally was Matt Carpenter. The last true star that they developed was probably Yadier Molina. And they haven't done it since. So if you have a chance, if you truly do believe, and this is up to their scouts to decide if they think this is the case, but if you think there is a position player that has star-level potential and you can get them with the number 5 overall selection, I know how much you're missing pitching. I know. But like Jacob Mizorowski, that guy was a second-round pick. You can find pitchers in the second round and beyond. You can develop velocity. You can develop pitch shaping. That is the task of this new front office, is they need to maximize whatever is there in the arsenal for these young pitchers that they're about to bring into the system. You can find those guys in the international market. Like, you can find pitching. I think you have to go out there, and if you think that these guys have star talent, and that's up to them, you've got to go with the shortstop, one of them, because that is something that you have lacked, and you can't find those guys later on in the draft. Stars are, generally speaking, if you're playing the odds, those guys are found position player-wise in the top 10 in the draft. You finally have that opportunity. You don't know when the next time is that you will. Hopefully never. But if you've got this chance right now and you punt on it, I think that you will probably live to regret that. And you'll be going on an immediate need in a draft where you should be thinking about the next decade instead.
I hear you there. I understand what you're saying. My counter to that would be, it was 2020 when you had a draft pick that wasn't quite as high as the number 5 position overall. You drafted the individual you thought would be the next transformational, iconic bat. We all know it's Jordan Walker. Now, if you are sold on going offense, going developmental from a positional player standpoint at number 5, that's fine. That's your prerogative. But can you convince me that at the lower levels, the requisite coaching, the requisite adjustments, alterations on the fly, that somehow there is a seismic change at that level of the organization as opposed to just a few years ago? Because so far you're talking about different cases. But are we not talking about developing the same type of impact performer? For that to come to fruition, I know it's a different position, but you swung so far and you missed in that department. What changes from a coaching developmental standpoint now as opposed to just 2020? You had the same opportunity.
The player changes. Like, at a certain point in time, we have to just be willing to admit maybe Walker was never going to work. Like, maybe it was him.
Or maybe he's just 23 right now.
It could be. Or maybe like, maybe this guy, I think both things can be true. I think sometimes we get so stuck on like it has to be this one thing. This is what went wrong. The Cardinals rushed him. They did. They rushed him too fast. They shouldn't have done that, in my opinion. I got caught up in it. A lot of us did, right? But they rushed him. And I also think the player just might not have been a guy that was going to work at this level. Sometimes you have a weakness that is exposed at such a level that there's not coaching that can fix it. Right? His problem is pitch recognition. If you can't recognize spin, well, there's not a lot of coaching that can help you with that. They can try, and eventually maybe it comes through, but sometimes it's just the player. Sometimes players bust, right? You bet on upside and you missed. That doesn't mean you never bet on upside again. Sure. Right? Like if I go to a roulette table and I bet on black and it's red, sometimes that happens. You had a 50-50 prop-ish, like a 48% chance of it landing on black, and you got it wrong. And that doesn't mean the next time that I go to a roulette table, or even the next round that I'm betting on the roulette table, I can't then bet on black again. I have to now bet on red, and then, now it went back to black. Like, sometimes stuff changes, right? And so the player changes. That is one variable. J.J. Weatherholt sure seems to be developing within the Cardinals minor league system right now. That doesn't mean J.J. got this totally different tutelage. No, sometimes the player is the difference. 2, I do think there are some differences right now in the minor league system than were in the minor league system 5 years ago. Heimblum and his guys that he has brought in, I think Rob Serfolio, who we had on the podcast a few weeks ago, he is now overseeing things. They have added more staff into the minor league system. I think all of these reasons are why I trust them more to develop that bat than I did 5 years ago. And sometimes, man, you just got to swing again. You got to swing for the fences and see if you smash it out of the park. All right. Coming up in about 7 minutes or so, we're going to get into Ask Us Anything. But we did this yesterday. It got rave reviews. People really loved hearing Bradford Bruns in his 2-minute warning. I'm giving you 2 minutes, Bradford, for your biggest thoughts on college football right now. I'm letting you take this in any direction. Prime real estate, 11 o'clock hour. Let's see what you got on the college football landscape.
It's time for the 2-minute drill.
Perfect flow here. All right, guys, I heard the catcalls yesterday. Bruns, what about LSU in 2025? I love some Blake Baker, if not Brian Kelly. I don't love beginning your season at Clemson in Death Valley. Show me something there, and then maybe I'll be willing to bet on you in Oxford come week number 5. But enough with the SEC, because we understand from the text line yesterday the Big Ten apparently runs everything. I'm not going to throw any shade on OSU, PSU, Oregon. Tanner, he's the resident authority on ILL. However, I do wonder what Michigan is actually going to accomplish with a real passing game this season. BK Bryce Underwood, he's the big get for the program, the nation's #1 overall recruit in general. But you're going to be riding with Mikey Keene in 2025. That's not a bad thing, because in the backfield, you have Justice Haynes coming over from Alabama, along with Damon Payne, a standout literally at defensive tackle, too. That'll be more than enough to make up for the loss of Mason Graham now with the NFL. So I'm looking at this team's over-under for 2025 with 8.5, and I'm saying you're going to hammer that over, because yes, you've got the road challenges, of course. You know that you're playing at OSU, that you are playing at USC, among others, but I like the Wolverines all told. But on the opposite end of the spectrum, Minnesota Golden Gophers, yeah, nice story, cute story from a year ago, but to say you're going to get to 6.5 this coming season, please. The majority of those offensive starters, they are long gone from that 8-win season. Oh yeah, and you have to actually play against Ohio State, Nebraska, Iowa, Cal, Wisconsin, Oregon. At least all of those are going down as losses for me, because you don't have the trigger man any longer. You don't have Max Brosmer. You don't have the depth that is there. So Big Ten chances take a huge, huge hit for that matter. So long, Gophers.
So we got Michigan over, and we got Minnesota under.
Under 6.5.
Michigan over is bold, man. They've got Oklahoma on the schedule on the road. Nebraska should be a little better on the road at USC. USC stunk last year, but they were really, really good at home. 8.5 is a little high.
3 teams last season.
8.5 is a little high.
Generated fewer passing yards. They didn't have the forward pass, BK. They didn't have it. You know
we
they're
don't
going
know
to run
if
the
they're
ball.
going to be good at that this year either. I typically bet against freshman quarterbacks, because freshmen are generally speaking terrible. It's part of why I was skeptical about Nebraska last year, and it's why I'm a little higher on them this year. They should have a quarterback that I think is going to grow. But it's a bold choice. Who's your favorite team this year in the Big Ten? Is it Ohio State?
Ohio State trailed closely still by Oregon. I think, honestly, they're in the same ballpark there. I really do. I expect, out of necessity, frankly.
To Penn State.
Penn State, I respect Penn State, but I know how that story turns out at the end of the day. Now, if the story turns out the same way for the Trojans, Mr. Riley's going to have another gig, I think, but we digress.
All right. Go ahead and give us your grade. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. That was your 2-minute warning with Bradford Bruns. 2 straight days, 2 fantastic segments. I do want to read this. We've seen your text, yes, and I want to read this. This comes from John Kelly. Before we go to break, we'll get to Ask Us Anything on the other side. John Kelly, Blues broadcaster, said, when I was 8 years old, I moved from Ottawa, Ontario to St. Louis, Missouri, not knowing how much this city of St. Louis and the Blues would come to mean to me. I've been incredibly fortunate to raise a family here and, for the past 2 decades, do what I love every day. After 21 seasons as the television voice of the St. Louis Blues, my time in this role has come to an end. I've had the privilege of calling some of the most unforgettable moments in NHL history, with none greater than the incredible 2019 Stanley Cup run. The Blue Note will always hold a special place in our family, and it has been a privilege to be part of this team's journey. My late father, Dan Kelly, helped pioneer the game of hockey in St. Louis, and having the opportunity to carry on that legacy in this city has been one of the greatest honors of my life. To the people of St. Louis and the passionate Blues fans, thank you. Your unwavering support has meant everything to me and my family. The outpouring of kindness over the years has been truly humbling. This fan base is one of a kind. I'm grateful to the Blues executives, alumni, coaches, and players for their trust and cooperation. So many of you have become more than colleagues, and I've built friendships that will last a lifetime. I also want to thank FanDuel Sports Network and the local crew for their partnership and support over the past 33 years. Their professionalism, dedication, and camaraderie are rare in this industry. I'm incredibly proud of what we've built together on the broadcast side. Broadcasting and hockey are far more than a career to me. They are a passion. My journey is not over. I'm looking ahead with excitement about what's next. Finally, I want to thank my incredible family, to my beautiful wife, Jennifer, and our amazing children, Patrick, Megan, and Grace. Your love and support means everything. I'm excited for what lies ahead for all of us. With love, John Kelly. For those that missed it yesterday, there has been a change to the St. Louis Blues television side of things. They will be going to a simulcast. Moving forward, it will be Chris Kerber and Joey Vitale on the call, not only here on 101 ESPN, as has been the case in the past. They will also be on the call for the television side as well. So it will be the same call airing simultaneously on television and on the radio. This is a sign of the times. Things are changing, as you have all seen with FanDuel. They have gone through some struggles on the bankruptcy side of things and everything. So it's changing times in television. The Blues are trying to adjust accordingly. We certainly wish nothing but the best for John Kelly here. But Curbs and Joey will now be on the air, both on the television side of things and on the radio side of things. I'm sure many of you have questions that, frankly, I don't have the answers to. That is above my pay grade, but I did, A, want to read that note from John Kelly, and B, give you everything that I know here on BK and Ferrario. Coming up next, Ask Us Anything here on 101 ESPN.
You can now watch 101 ESPN live on our Air Alliance Team Studio Cams. Catch every show live on our YouTube channel or at 101ESPN.com. 101 ESPN Studio Cams.
Presented by the Air Alliance Team Heating and Cooling. Getting the job done quickly, correctly, 100% of the time.
We're right back to more of it. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN. You've got questions. BK and Ferrario may have the answers. Questions and answers presented by Vantage Credit Union. As a local financial partner, Vantage puts your needs first. Membership eligibility required.
All right, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for Ask Us Anything. If you guys have any questions, sports or otherwise, go ahead and get them in right now on the Air Comfort Service text line. I feel like you guys know at this point, we try to be as open and honest with you guys as we possibly can be. There are a lot of questions on the text line right now that just frankly, it's not that I don't want to answer them. I don't know the answers. Like a lot of the stuff with the Blues, man, I know that we are the home of the Blues. I love our partnership with the St. Louis Blues. I don't know some of these answers. So some of it we're going to learn on the fly with you guys. So I promise you, I'm not avoiding your questions. I just don't know the answers. And so that's why for some of you that are asking questions on the text line right now, that's my explanation as to why I'm not answering some of them. All right. From the 314, BK, who annoys you more, T-Bone or Alex? First of all, great question. Second of all, I think annoys is probably the wrong characterization. Who gets under my skin more often?
There you go.
I think is probably the way that I would frame it. The answer, I think, might surprise some of you. It's actually T-Bone. Alex and I have a relationship where I think sometimes when you do this for 3 hours a day, every day of the week, and we're not only talking to each other on air, but we also are with each other in the office beforehand, it's a very weird relationship. Like, nobody should spend 4 hours a day with the same person every day, where the only thing that your job is to talk to each other. You're literally communicating for 4 hours at a minimum every single day. It's a really weird relationship. We actually get along really well. There are times where we press each other's buttons, don't get me wrong, because we just operate differently. We operate on different wavelengths at times. But T-Bone operates strangely on a more similar wavelength to me, which can actually make us butt heads more often. So that's my answer. He gets under my skin more often than Alex does, but it might not sound that way on the air. We agree more, but I think that's what leads to us butting heads more often.
It has nothing to do with the sandwich fiasco from the other day, Redbird Report style, no?
No, it has nothing to do with that. All right, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for Ask Us Anything. If you guys have any questions, sports or otherwise, we'll get into those now. Guys from the 314, is there a lens through which we can evaluate the Cardinals' decision to move Contreras to first base at this point? I think Ollie's done a good job at managing the lineup overall, trying to get everybody who needs it and deserves those opportunities, but it seems like a lot of the problems would have been solved if Contreras was still behind the plate. I think it's been a good move for everybody involved, and that includes Wilson Contreras. He's staying healthy this season in a way that he didn't previously. Yeah, the hand thing, but otherwise he's been healthy, and that was at the plate, so nothing you can do there. I think defensively, you've been much better this year. Offensively, he's been able to be in the lineup, which makes you a better team. I think it's been a good move for all parties involved. I think ideally, for the youth movement, maybe they would have been able to move him in the offseason, but I think they're a better team because they have him.
Yeah, and some people would have said ideally it would have been a good thing to have moved on from him, period, in another direction. That's not what came to pass, and we can't afford to look at it basically in hindsight in that way. All things considered, staying in the lineup predominantly, being that source co-leader right now in home runs. Would you love to see more power? Absolutely. But the fact of the matter is that he is an assertive presence in the middle of the order. And at first base, his work, honestly, in my opinion, has been a rousing success defensively.
From the 636, BK, you said you used to be a UFC fan once upon a time. If they dropped their pay-per-view model with the next TV contract, would you get back into it? I don't know. I think a lot of it now is, just to be totally honest, time. I mean, Bradford, you know this as a father. You have to prioritize what you're going to be watching. And so a lot of the time for sports-related stuff, I prioritize the stuff that I cover. I used to be a huge NBA fan. Like, I watched probably as much NBA as any other sport. That was one of my favorite sports growing up. It was that and the NFL. And eventually, when I got into this industry, dude, the NBA is just on when the Blues are playing.
Something has to give.
So I'm not going to be able to watch as much NBA now, unfortunately, because I'm prioritizing the stuff that I have to watch to be able to do this job at hopefully a decent level. So to answer the question directly on UFC, would I watch more of it? Probably, just because like if it's on the background on Saturdays, I would be into that. But how much? I don't know, man. It's just something that's kind of been rotated out of my sports viewing experience at this point.
But if there's a massive event, maybe in the nation's capital, could that sway you? On the grounds? No.
We'll talk about something else. From the 314, guys, do you think if an ex gave you jewelry to your current significant other, they should wear it, or do you not think that's the case? Okay, so if
oh boy,
if my wife's ex gave her jewelry, should she wear it? I don't care. That's not something that bothers me.
At that time in the past, right?
What do you mean?
At that time, as in the transaction happened long ago.
Yeah.
Let's clarify.
Hopefully they did not recently give her that jewelry. But yeah, that's not something that really bothers me, but that kind of stuff in general doesn't bother me.
It comes down to security, right? And security speaks to vulnerability, too, and that makes the total package. Write that down.
From the 501, how much is Mo paying you, BK? We demand to know. Been running cover for him for a better part of a decade. I wish John Mozeliak was paying me. Unfortunately, he is not. So if I start getting those checks, I promise you, I will let you guys know.
You are not the only one to be accused of as much, BK. It's a common thing from 2 to 6.
Didn't think we'd talk about that today.
But we are.
All right, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for Ask Us Anything. BK, what's your favorite fast food sandwich chain? I would say the one I go to most often is Jimmy John's, just because it's the closest to me. I live out in St. Charles, and they've got one not far from where we're at. I do really, not to say this just because it's I don't know if this counts because it's a St. Louis chain technically, but I think Lion's Choice is really good. I am a convert to Lion's Choice, so that would be up there on my list.
The girls adore the Jimmy John's, specifically the bread. I can't say that I can totally go down that road, but the Lion's Choice, you hit the nail on the head, man, because if it's not that delectable roast beef, that mini dipped cone, that's all you need. That's everything.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line from the 636. Final thing here. BK, why do we have to wait until the trade deadline instead of making something happen now or improve our playoff chances? Ownership and Mo know what we need. I would say that's something that annoys me with the Fedde situation. If you saw yesterday, there was a move that was made by the Orioles and the Rays. The Orioles sent a reliever to the Rays, and in return, they got a comp pick. That is something that I wish the Cardinals would be more aggressive with. We've seen this in the past where the Brewers have made a couple of moves. Willie Adames was this, where the Rays had a shortstop. Interesting, the Rays are always involved in these. And then I think they made a trade earlier on in a season for a starting pitcher. I can't remember who it was now. Might have even been Savali at the time. I can't remember who it was, but they made a few early season aggressive moves. I would like to see the Cardinals do something like that. There are teams that really need starters right now. I wish the Cardinals would explore that a little bit more instead of forcing Fedde into the rotation for this weekend. All right, coming up in about 15 minutes, are there still NHL players available, either via trade or free agency, that could move the needle for the Blues? We're talking Blues in the entire 12 o'clock hour. Why? Because Macadoodle Mike McKenna, will be joining us on the air link over on YouTube, youtube.com/101ESPN STL is where you can go to watch it. Mike McKenna, former NHL goalie, talks hockey for the entire 12 o'clock hour, coming up next here on 101 ESPN.
Open up your 101 mobile app for your chance to win a pair of 4-day passes for Major League Pickleball. Sponsored by Stella Artois. July 17th through July 20th at Chaffetz Arena. 101 ESPN listeners can get a special discount on single-day and 4-day tickets by using the code WXOS. Find all the details on that special discount code and that chance to score free 4-day passes for Major League Pickleball. Sponsored by Stella Artois. Right now at 101ESPN.com. or on your 101 mobile app. KXOS, WXOS, HD1 East St. Louis, 101 ESPN is driven by Brown and Crouppen Law Firm. We're going between the pipes with former NHL goaltender Mike McKenna.
Between the Pipes is refreshed by Macadoodle Spirits, fine wine, beer, and cigars. Now open in Darden Prairie.
Alongside Bradford Bruns, I'm Brandon Kiley, and we are joined for the entirety of the 12 o'clock hour by a man that our YouTube chat has labeled as Macadoodle Mike. Mike McKenna joins us now on the Airlink, which is on the YouTube feed, youtube.com/101ESPN STL. He's joining us for the entire 12 o'clock hour. We're going to talk a lot of hockey. Bradford, real quick, if you don't mind turning that computer toward me so I can see Mike, that'd be super helpful. Awesome. Mike, appreciate you doing this, man. How you doing today?
Man, doing great. I am happy to be here. Happy to do a full hour. Feels like the old days, but yeah, I'm excited to get on and talk to you about this because everything that's happened, and we might hear a little bit of noise in the background here at Macadoodles. We got receiving going on, we got bottles flying around, so I'm just hoping I don't hear any smashing bottles out there. We'll be in business.
Fingers crossed. Everything's going well over there at Macadoodles. All right, Mike, let's look kind of big picture because this Blues offseason I think has been a little bit more jam-packed than what we were anticipating. We weren't sure how much action there would actually be. What do you think, just looking at it from the 10,000-foot view, have the Blues improved from where they were at this point last year to where they are today, in your opinion?
It's hard for me to say that because the subtraction of Bolduc is real, and I'm not sure how the Blues are going to make that look like it was a winning proposition. Okay, and I don't mean that to sound negative because I think it still leaves a little bit to be decided for the year on where certain people are going to slot into the lineup for the Blues. Talked about it last week. I really like the signing of Nick Bjugstad. I like the signing of Pius Suter. I still think that there's holes in the Blues lineup here where at the forward position, especially at center, we really are unsure who could be number two. Is it Pius Suter? Maybe. We'll see. But really the back end still has questions, Nick Leddy. I gotta tell you, I'm kind of sad to see him move on because I called that one a couple of years ago. Remember that?
You remember that. Everybody was like, nah, that's not the direction they're going to go, including us. And you're like, nah, I think Nick Leddy's exactly what they need. Puck mover, skates well, he makes sense.
Right. So Logan Mailloux is not an improvement over Nick Leddy. We don't know that right now. We don't. Is that your player? So I think the Blues largely have kind of held serve. I do think the addition of Snuggerud makes the team better from what they were mid-season last year. So it's tough to say. If you ask me, I really think they are a team that's a wash on paper with more upside than they've shown that's still to come because of question marks. So if it works the way Doug Armstrong plans and the way that Jim Montgomery thinks can happen, I do think the Blues are in a better spot going towards next season.
Mike, I'm going to go to break real quick. We're going to fix our audio situation with you. We're a little overmodulated, so we're going to do that. We're not going to take away from any of the conversation with Mike McKenna. I want to make sure that you guys for this hour get as much fantastic Blues content as humanly possible. So we're going to get more into the St. Louis Blues, their additions, what's still out there that could potentially help either the Blues or other teams in this division. We'll get into all of that with former NHL goalie Mike McKenna coming up next year on 101 ESPN.
We want to hear from you. Use the Scott Lee Mic Drop feature on the 101 mobile app. Give us your opinion on anything St. Louis sports with a mic drop.
Brought to you by the Scott Lee Heating Company.
St. Louis. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
I think we've got our technical difficulties fixed. We've got Mike McKenna. He's a former NHL goalie. Man, you've dealt with stuff. You've dealt with adversity before. We're going to be able to overcome this. It ain't no thing. Mike McKenna is a former NHL player. He joins us now on BK and Ferrario for the 12 o'clock hour, talking a lot of hockey. I know there are a lot of Blues fans out there that have been wanting to hear this week. Now we have a former player to do so. All right, we were talking in the last segment a little bit, Mike, before the audio technical difficulties hit us. You think the Blues, it's hard to say with certainty that they've improved for 2025 because when you trade a guy like Zach Bolduc that is so proven and you have somebody that is so unproven and a Logan Mailloux as the return, it's hard to say you definitely got better there. Same thing with Nick Leddy, for example. So how do you feel about the team right now? Like when you think about this and not knowing if they're for sure better or not, do you like the direction that they're heading in, Mike?
Yeah, I really do. I mean, I just felt like last year was such an exciting brand of hockey to watch for the last half of the season with the Blues that on a personal level, I had a lot of fun doing so. And it wasn't just because they made the playoffs and they made some noise. It's because I saw a lot of growth in the players. You think about how much, not just the obvious ones, like Dylan Holloway, you can't miss how much better he got during last season. It's completely obvious. But the depth of the team, like Tyler Tucker became a bona fide NHL defenseman. He's a 5'6" defenseman for me. And the value of those players, like think about the teams lately that have been really good. Florida, great on defense. You look at Vegas when they won, they got a guy named Zach Whitecloud on that team. And I actually see Tyler Tucker as a very similar version of a Zach Whitecloud that, man, he's going to be one of your top 5'6" defensemen who plays that role really well, plays gritty, can chip in offensively on occasion, which is where the growth was. That's the guys that I like to see it from. You know, Jake Neighbors continued to take his upward trajectory there. So, again, it wasn't just the obvious guys. Holloway jumped out to everyone. But some of the depth of the team I thought really got a lot better. And even think Alexei Torpchenko, okay, there's a great example of somebody to me that his role is now defined in the NHL. Like, BK, I'm not sure if you could have looked 2 years ago and said Torpchenko is a fourth liner the rest of his career. Maybe he's a second liner. We know he's a third or fourth line guy. And it's defined. And I think that makes a big difference because now Montgomery knows where people slot into his lineup, and it's going to help the team as well.
I think that's even the case for a guy like Jake Neighbors. Like you think about him, and listen, this could change. You'll deal with injuries over the course of the season, so he'll probably bump up at times. But I think right now, if you're in Jake Neighbors' shoes and you're thinking about his offseason, okay, what do I need to do? What is the team asking of me? I don't think most people anticipate that he's going to be a top 6 player for this team on opening night. He's a third-line winger. He's going to be really, really good in that role. He's probably an overqualified third-line player, but he knows exactly where he's going to fit into this mix. I think there's real value in that. It also helps. We saw this last year where they were juggling up the lines all the time. I think you can develop some real chemistry with what they now have with their lines.
It's starting to look like there's set lines for the Blues. And we'd only really seen that for a long time with Buchnevich, Thomas, Kyrou. That's about all we knew for a while. And then last year it got mixed up and you put Shen and Holloway together and you saw what happened. That's a good thing for the Blues. I still think Jake Neighbors has some more in him. I still think he's a second-line player in the NHL, maybe at his absolute peak. But if he's a third line, I don't think it makes much of a difference because you're really seeing in today's game, the best teams have 3 lines of players that can score, that can crash, that can bang. Brad Marchand at times is playing third line for the Panthers. What does it mean? Like, it's just a label. It's about what you mean to a team. I still see Jake Neighbors out there leading the warm-up, as somebody that's in his mid-20s. He's the guy that the team's looking at to lead the warm-up before the game. Now, in the locker room, dude, that's a big thing. Like, you're a trusted guy that everybody thinks is going to get the team going, is going to be able to be organized, that people look up to. It's those little tells that you see that when you've been in the room, you can just sense who's got the power in that locker room in a good way, right? Like who's got the attention of everybody. Jake Neighbors took strides in that last year as well.
So you talked a little bit about Mailloux. That was one of the big moves that they made. Pius Suter is another guy that they brought in. He's going to be in that middle 6 conversation. I have not talked to you about this yet, Mike. I was not in last week. I was out on vacation. when you look at the way that they can construct these lines, do you think Pius Suter makes more sense with Holloway and Kyrou, or does he make more sense on that line with Jake Neighbors and whoever they decide as that third line winger?
No, I still like Thomas and Kyrou together so much. It's going to be hard to rip that thought out of my mind for the rest of eternity as a Blues fan, I think. But I ultimately would like to see I'd like to see Jake Neighbors playing with Pius Suter, whether you're calling that the second or third line. I'd like to see Braden Shen on the wing as well.
Oh, interesting.
I think he's best served there at this point, even though third can still work for him. I think he's able to slot up and down a little bit easier.
Who do you think that puts at center then? Would you go Bukestad then as that third line center?
Well, I think you can use him there. I mean, you can mix Sundqvist in that role as well, too. So you have weapons here, and you're going to need them all throughout the course of the season. But this is also where you're hoping that, some of your young guns may be able to come in and take a little bit of that ice time, too. You don't start them at center. You give them some space. You give them some time to run. But we don't know who's going to be able to hop in there. Dvorak going to take some draws this year? We don't know that. So, but I do think, if you ask me, I'd still like to see Suter playing with Neighbors if we could, and allow those guys to get a bit of chemistry developed as well.
What did you think of the Bukestad signing? Because that was one that I thought was really intriguing, given what they had with Radek Faksa a year ago, what he brought to that fourth line. Obviously a little bit heavier, a guy that you can be more reliable defensively. Bukestad is huge. He's a massive human being. He's extremely tall. Maybe not as much of a defensive guy, but more so offensive oriented. What did you think of the signing when they brought him in?
I loved it. I played with Faksa and with Bukestad, and they are not interchangeable players in how they play. Bukestad's a monstrous guy, right-handed. He actually, you could put him next to Colton Parayko and they'd be the Twin Towers, They really, they kind of, big blonde dudes that could kind of enter the room together and everybody goes, whoa. And Faksa being really responsible, defensive, left-handed, just different animal. But I think for the price point they got Bukestad, it's a great signing. He's strong. He still has a scoring touch. He's responsible, but this guy eats face-offs, dude. When my dad's an off-ice official with the NHL, so he's tracking face-offs, plus minus, all these things. The moment they signed Bukestad, he said, man, it just felt like every time there was a big draw in his team's zone, he was the guy out there. So that matters to me. He also has an offensive touch to him that early in his career, he was looked at as a guy who's going to be a first or second line player. He's a guy who has scored 20 plus in the NHL, I believe.
Yeah, 2 years ago, 22, I think it was.
Right. So he can do that. You know where he's going to do that? Power play right in front of the net. So Bukestad is an upgrade on the power play from putting Sonny in front of the net. No way around it. And if that's who you're going to utilize, now you got a big body, you got a big screen, you got somebody who can take some face-offs. So at that under $2 million mark, I thought the Bukestad signing was outstanding, and I think he'll fit right into that third or fourth line slot for the Blues.
Mike McKenna is joining us for the 12 o'clock hour here on BK and Ferrario. Mike, when you think about what the Blues are still lacking, you look at them compared to some of the top contenders across the NHL, where do you think they fall short right now? What are they still missing?
Same stuff we've talked about. Pius Suter's either going to have to take a step or he's going to end up being a third line center. And we're already putting this on a brand new player to the team. But it's reality for me. He's a guy who's put up 60 points or so in his career. Without looking offhand, I know he's someone who's tickled the 20-30 range previously on goals. He had 25 last year for Vancouver, but your second line center is going to be somebody that you need to be putting up 75, 80 points, not 45, not 50. So the hard part is I think the Blues are set at center right now. They're not going to go out and find somebody or trade somebody that's going to be there for them. So that's a question mark. I think by the end of the year, does Matthew Joseph still fit into the lineup? Does somebody take that spot? I think on defense as well. Logan Mayhew's a big swing. I'm not convinced that I'm not convinced that he's going to be one of those top six and the guy without a little bit of movement on the back end as well. I'm still look at the Blues core and I think, man, Parayko, Fowler, awesome. It's great. You got Fowler for one more year. Broberg, man, that first half of last season, but then once he got hurt, wasn't quite the same. Falk still moves pretty well. There's just question marks on defense for me. But again, I'm not sure how they rectify that.
And that's what I was going to get to. So there's been that buzz that's out there, less so this week than over the past couple. But, hey, Bo Byram, he's out there. He's going to arbitration. He's potentially going to have a 2-year deal with Buffalo. Buffalo saying we're not trading him for futures. We want the player, blah, blah, blah. Is that the kind of move that you think would make sense? Like you say they've got issues there. He plays occasionally on the right side. He likes playing on his offhand. Is that something that would make sense in your mind that would alleviate those issues?
Here's my hang-up.
Your answer is no.
The answer is no, it is. But here's my hang-up. I really like the player. I don't like that. Two things. Has he been stuck behind great defensemen in every city he's been in? Rasmus Dahlin in Buffalo. That team hasn't made the playoffs since Eisenhower was in office, it feels like. That team sucks. And he wasn't, and Dahlin's a good D, but at some point you're behind Dahlin, you're behind Power. Are you really a number 2 defenseman in the NHL if you're Bowen Byram? Are you number 1, like 4th overall pick? Is this really where you are? I'll give a little bit more grace for his time that he spent with Colorado. Yeah, you are behind Cale Makar, who's the best defenseman on the planet for me. He's the second coming of Bobby Orr for me. But he was also hurt a lot. So I got two things going against me there that I just don't know if Bo Byram's going to be a guy that's going to be worth $6, $7, $8 million down the road and really be a top 2-line guy. At least he has been healthy in the last season. But it's a real concern for me, man. I'm not sure he's going to be healthy. I'm also not sure he's truly the puck-moving defenseman that everybody thought he was going to be as number 4 pick overall in 2019.
I think the other hang-up, because you talked about one cost, which is just the dollar figure, right? How much he's going to get paid on his next contract.
And term. Term.
The other cost associated with trading for Bo Byram would be, who are you giving up, right? The player capital, the draft pick capital, et cetera. And we had the Buffalo Sabres beat writer on the other day, and he said, I don't know how there can be any deal for Bowen Byram with the St. Louis Blues if Jake Neighbors is not involved. It's like that. Yep. That's got to be the starting point for Buffalo, because they need somebody that can come in and factor into their top 6. And if you're thinking about like value-wise, they're two guys that kind of line up from NHL teams' perspective. That's a lot to give up, and then you have the money associated with it. How would you feel about a Jake Neighbors for Bo Byram swap if that is something that we hear at some point this summer, Mike?
No chance, man. I'd rather go dance around in a thong on Bryan Road in front of Macadoodles to draw traffic than make that trade.
That doesn't sound so bad. We could get that going. We could do digital content like that.
Well, you never know what might bring people out, but no. I'm not giving up Jake Neighbors for a deal like that. If Jake Neighbors is going out of St. Louis, you better be getting a legit bona fide top 2D, or you're getting a number 2 center that's a difference maker. You signed Pius Suter because no one had to trade for him to get the guy. He's a free agent. Number 2 centerman, they get locked up long term. I don't make that trade any day. And I don't see anybody on the free agent market right now that would be worth the Blues even considering on defense right now. I mean, the best guy out there right now is John Merrill or Matt Grzelcyk. Like, no. So I think they've kind of made their bed right now in St. Louis.
You mentioned the free agent market. I do want to talk a little bit about this with you. We talked about Bo Byram there. Is there anything still out there, whether it's free agency, trade market? What is out there that could still be intriguing for the Blues? And do you think there are guys out there that could still be in play for this division that could make it harder for the Blues to get into the playoffs? We'll get into that and talk a little bit about the goalie market. It's something that Mike McKenna has been keeping his eye on. We'll talk about that next here on BK and Ferrario.
101 ESPN is powered by Kaufman Townsley, St. Louis's injury lawyers. Call 314-500-5000.
your opinion on the Air Comfort Service heating, cooling, and insulation text line at 314-399-9646 on 101 ESPN. 101 ESPN Sports Center.
Cards claim 2 of 3 downtown. Good afternoon. I'm Bradford Bruns. Your Sports Center update is powered by Saliga Heating and Cooling. A 10-hit attack plus stellar mound work from Miles Mikolas lifted the Cardinals past Washington last night 8-1. That rubber match win putting St. Louis at 50-44, entering this evening's series opener against Atlanta. Lefty Matthew Liberatore will draw his final pre-All-Star break nod at 7:15 p.m. Simultaneously, expect more Ivan Herrera suiting up for Memphis. He singled in those Redbirds' 8-1 victory over Charlotte. J.J. Weatherholt staying hot as well, scoring twice, while Tikoa Roby, also fired 5 scoreless frames. Your Sports Center update was presented by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
Giving you the picture, the real big St. Louis sports picture. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
As you can imagine, sometimes with technology, there are issues. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show. You can watch us, as always, at youtube.com/101ESPN-STL. We're hoping to get Mike McKenna back up on the YouTube stream here momentarily. He was texting me earlier today about the goalie market and how thin it is. And it is something that I did want to talk to him about, since he is a former NHL goalie. There were basically no real starting options available this offseason. One of the teams that's most affected by that is the Edmonton Oilers, who are a consistent Stanley Cup contender, and they had no way to really upgrade at that spot this offseason because Jake Allen was taken off the market almost immediately. So that is something that I do want to get into with Mike McKenna here in just a little bit. I know the Fast Lane talked about this yesterday. So there's something called GAR, and boy, did they love talking about that. Goals above replacement. It's a NHL nerdy number that Neil Pine of previously 538, now ESPN.com, has used to determine, okay, who upgraded the most this offseason, who lost the most, who upgraded the most. And if you look at the team that upgraded more than anybody else this offseason, it's the teams that were terrible last year. No surprise. The guys that they're replacing were horrific. Now they have solid, legit NHL players there. And so the San Jose Sharks, the Anaheim Ducks, and the Seattle Kraken have upgraded the most this offseason. Those are the top 3 teams. The Blues came in at number 13, and that's why I did want to get Mike McKenna's perspective on this, on if he thinks that the Blues are better today than they were last year. I think there's a lot of questions on the goal scoring side of things. You lose Zach Bolduc. What does that mean for your lineup, and are you going to be able to replace what he brought to the table? I think for some, I can't speak for Mike, but I think for some, we are comparing the 2025 Blues to like the ideal version of what the Blues were a year ago, and that means we are thinking about, okay, what would it have looked like if they had Bolduc plus Holloway plus Snuggerud on that team? And the truth is, they just never really had that lineup out there. So when you look at a stat like this, it's just one thing that a guy threw out there, but it does suggest that the Blues were able to, at a minimum, basically remain stagnant, remain the same, and hopefully even improve a little bit with that big swing for Mayu. We are able to now go back out to the YouTube stream. We've got Mike McKenna rejoining us here on the show for the 12 o'clock hour. Brad Thompson will join us in studio coming up here in just about 20 minutes at this point. Mike, appreciate you hopping back on here. So we talked a little bit about the free agent market. It's bone dry. There's not a whole lot out there right now. When you look at whether it be free agency or trades, are there still players out there that you're keeping your eye on that you're like, I think that could be something the Blues could or should look into before the offseason's over?
No, not really. Not with the Blues, at least. I feel at this point you're kind of set in what you have unless something big goes out there. There are players that I think would be worth looking at. You know, some of the free agents that are left out there. I'm looking at guys like a Yoel Kiviranta, who I really like, but he's not a big point producer. Do you get a bargain barrel player is kind of my question for this, because maybe you can replace I hate that word, but maybe you can replace a Matthew Joseph with something that's less expensive, that's going to get you as much production or can skate as well. Like, that's a real thing. But then you have to also move a contract in order to do so. So, this is kind of like your bottom barrel tweaking things that you can also bring somebody in during training camp and put them on a tryout and see how it goes and see, do they make a difference for us? Do we put somebody on waivers who all of a sudden, we bring somebody in who doesn't have a contract and we love what they do? Like Jeff Skinner might be a guy like that. You never even know. Like he's someone who, for all we know, he may end up on a free agent tryout deal. Maybe he comes in and blows people away. But I think the Blues are pretty set in what they have for it.
Yeah, I think so too. And I mean, you mentioned it with the roster. You've got 14 forwards currently under contract. Like, even as is, they're probably going to have to try to move somebody through waivers. Maybe that's Matthew Joseph. Maybe you see with Alexander Texier. But, like, just as currently constructed, I think you're probably looking at Sonny maybe being that 13th forward. And then whoever loses that third-line winger spot between Texier, Joseph, Dvorsky, we'll see. They've mentioned Carbonneau. I don't think that's realistic, but there's going to be a real battle heading into training camp this year to see not only who's in the lineup night tonight, but also who's going to make this roster. It's a little more competitive than it has been in a while.
Yeah, and I think last year had that competitiveness to it because there was a lot of unknowns. There were so many players that, to me, really had a lot to prove. Dylan Holloway, huge amount to prove, even though he'd had good years previously. And even Neighbors and Kyrou, I still view last season for Kyrou as a big prove-it year. Man, him getting booed by the home fans was just the turning point for everything with him. Like, the way he started to play defensively after that, started playing on both sides of the puck. Like, it's a hard lesson, like really hard lesson. That sucks as a player. And he responded. I saw growth there. Snuggerud's going to be hungry as can be, man. Like, and you don't want to see him have to go down to the American League. He doesn't want to go down to the American League. Dalibor Dvorsky doesn't want to go back to the American League. You've just had an all-star season. You've done everything asked by the organization. You got a little taste at the end of the year if you're Dvorsky. I've seen this happen with players, and especially European players, that if they don't graduate within a year or 2 years, there starts to be frustration, and they start looking for other pastures. They start thinking about going back home. At some point, you got to give this guy a chance to run with it. So, yeah, $2.9 million for Matthew Joseph. I like the guy. He's a good hockey player, but that's the dollar figure that just stares at you on the lineup. Texier's does a bit too, but that 2.9 for Joseph, when you've got people coming through, it makes you nervous.
All right, Mike, you have expertise on this that I certainly do not. You played the position at the NHL level. The goalie market was incredibly thin this offseason. It was basically Jake Allen and then a whole lot of nothing. And then Jake Allen signs at the last minute prior to free agency. So there was basically no upgrade to be had out there if you needed a legitimate starting goaltender. Why is it that the goalie market is so thin right now, in your opinion?
Oh, goalies are that good. That's the answer. They're just that good. There's no way around it. It's the deepest we've ever been. And I think there's people listening right now that are laughing and thinking I'm absolutely crazy. Everybody thinks goalies suck. What I actually mean by that is I do think the position's the best it's been, which has also optimized the position so much that I don't think there's a big delta between great goalies and adequate goalies. And most of the good goalies, good to great goalies, have been locked up on long-term contracts. So, Alex Lyon, was he going to be your guy to come in and change the world? Man, I love Al. He's a great dude and he's a good goalie, but he's not a world beater. He's a good goalie. That's kind of where we're at, I think. And it's pretty telling when you're at this point in the offseason. We're 11 days into free agency. I saw a report on Daily Faceoff that, and they talked about it this morning, 5 NHL teams have called Marc-Andre Fleury to try to convince this guy to come out of retirement, man. And I get it. Like, Flower can still play. Flower could easily be a contributor to an NHL team. But I think it also shows the uneasiness at that position. Goalies, coaches, you take the most heat. It's always goalies or coaches. And teams are never happy until you win. And It took 10 years for Sergei Bobrovsky to be the guy that could beat the world down there in Florida, and he's got a great team with him. And Edmonton, they're going to be searching for the next 5-6 years minimum because they didn't draft somebody. Stuart Skinner's the only guy they drafted in like 10 years, man. Like, they were completely negligent to developing a position from within, which the Blues have been great at.
Mm-hmm.
Jake Allen, Bennington, Hofer. There's a lineage of good goaltenders.
Ellis, Zarenko, they've got a bunch of guys still coming too.
Toss Ben Bishop in the mix. You know why? Because when you trade those players, you get assets for them too, or at least they move on and you get something tangible for them. You know, so yeah. Part of me was hoping Jake could, come closer here and somewhere in the Midwest. I'd like to see him again, but I'm happy that he stayed where him and his family are really happy. And I don't think we're going to see Flower come out of retirement, but it would sure make a person in my household really happy. Not me, my youngest daughter. I'd be happy too, but she just loves the guy.
Final thing that I wanted to ask you about as a follow-up on that. Why do you think it is that the Blues have been so successful at not just, like, obviously they're prioritizing the position. They're drafting these guys. They're bringing them into the organization. But beyond that, they're developing them consistently, and they're getting to the NHL level, and they're having success, which is not the case for a lot of these guys across the league. Why have the Blues been so successful in their draft and develop model with the goaltending position?
Well, it's a credit to the staff. It's a credit to Doug Armstrong, Al McInnes, who have valued the goaltending position. And that comes with education. It comes with listening to goalie people that are really smart. And the Blues have one of the best goaltending coaches in the world, Dave Alexander. I've sung his praises endlessly because he deserves it. He coached me for a while, and I can't say enough good things. But what's not just that Dave works with one person, he also works hand in hand with who the Blues are going to bring in as their development goalie coach, who they're going to put into Springfield. Dan Stewart is there now. They've also had other goalie coaches move on to greater roles from San Antonio previously elsewhere. You need to have an entire goaltending department. You need a goalie coach at the NHL. You need a goaltending development coach. You need scouting, and you need to hire the right people. And I think it's a credit to the Blues that they've done that. They've got great people in place. And yes, they've also tossed some money behind it. You got to pay these people. You're not going to keep them. So I'm happy to see that with the Blues, and I think they've drafted well with it. And now they're seeing the rewards, and they've been patient too. They have not rushed goalies. Joel Hofer was not rushed. Joel Hofer arrived when he should have, and Joel Hofer keeps getting better because he keeps getting more responsibility.
He's Mike McKenna. He joins us each Friday on behalf of Macadoodles. He'll tell you a little bit about what they've got going on over at Macadoodles coming up next. We will also dive into the junk drawer. I'm going to give Mike a little bit of a dealer's choice here. We can either go off the beaten path. We can talk if you want some racing. If he's got something else just on his mind that he wants to get out there into the public, we can do that. Or we can talk about the CBA. We'll give him that dealer's choice. We'll get into the junk drawer coming up next here on 101 ESPN.
The MLB is on ESPN tomorrow. Yankees and Cubs. Pre-game at 11:30. First pitch at 12:05. The MLB plays on 101 ESPN. to more of it. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN. Let's open it up. The Junk Drawer with BK and Ferrario.
Let's dive into the junk drawer alongside Mike McKenna, former NHL goalie. I'm Brandon Kiley. Bradford Brun's in with us today as well. T-Bone and Alex both off. They are on some well-deserved vacation. I gave Mike a dealer's choice here. You get to choose. Do you want to talk racing? I know you're a big racing guy. Do you want to talk something completely off the beaten path? Or do you want to get into the NHL CBA? Because I know you've got some thoughts on that. And Mike said, you know what? I'm passionate about it. We got to talk about the NHL's CBA. So let's get into this, Mike. When you saw it announced, you saw some of the details that were trickling out. What stood out to you about the league's new CBA?
Oh, man, the fun things that I felt like I was fighting for a long time. It's funny, man. Now there's going to be a position for a third goaltender for every team. We're not going to have the E-bug anymore, and which is sad. I know Daddy Padre's out there, and it's a tough thing for him, and maybe we can get him a tryout to be the roving third guy, but that's a big one because it's really going to make things clearer for not just organizations at the NHL level, but it also helps their prospects. Like, you don't want your number 3 or your prospect riding the pine in the NHL or being called up and shuttled around when you know you just need somebody to back up for one game. And I lived that life. Like, I would get called up for one game, and you're getting on a plane, you're moving, and then you don't know whether you're going to be coming back. Like, that's a really big win. I am really curious to see the language on what it's going to look like now for how they do the revenue share, what they're going to take from, the TV that they've gotten great money out of. But the third goalie thing's really interesting, and I think the 84-game schedule is a big surprise to me. I did not see the NHL going that direction.
That kind of came out of nowhere, Mike. I didn't hear any buzz about that beforehand, and then suddenly I was like, oh, wait, we're playing 2 more NHL regular season games.
Yeah, I honestly don't like it. But I do love that there's less preseason games.
Sure, everybody likes that. Players, fans, nobody wanted those games. The same thing the NFL did. We'll take away a preseason game, we'll play another regular season game. Cool, I got another week to watch Red Zone? Great.
Right. I'm totally on board with that. So, I mean, optimally, the NHL, it's just so long. It's such a grind. Like, we love to play, but it's a long season. Like, I think 70, 72 games would be really good for the league if you could, be able to carry that revenue-wise, but I understand the reasons for it. Sure. So I'm okay with that. It's nice to see now that there's going to be labor peace in the future here, where there wasn't a big fight. It's done in advance. I think Marty, the new NHLPA boss, really came in with a plan and sat down with Gary Bettman and said, hey, things are going pretty well. Let's keep this where it needs to be. And I sat on the exec board for a decade with the PHPA at the minor league level, and when you do those things, you can see how contentious stuff can be, man. Like, it's crazy. So to see this happen right now is a really good sign for the league, for the players, that presumably right now most people are happy. And I hope fans feel that as well. There's always things to change. But I also need to mention this on air, where this is the junk drawer. My friend Brian Schneider from Breakthrough Distributing has just informed me that Jameson Irish whiskey does have thongs. I might be able to get a thong now to be able to do this. So we've gone in a weird direction with the junk drawer.
No, this is the direction. This is the only direction that we can go in the junk drawer.
But this might be happening now, and it's actually, ironically, I guess, a real junk drawer.
I bet you we could probably make a day out of this, Mike. It wouldn't take more than an hour or so, probably. We could get T-Bone, Alex, and myself out to Macadoodles. We will find a way to film this. We've all got cameras with us at all times now with our phones. We could push this out on social media. Everybody, I've been told at least, everybody wants to see Mike McKenna holding a sandwich shop sign in a thong on the side of the road out in Darden Prairie. I think this would play really well.
Well, We are at the corner of Bryan and Fizey Road, just north of the Page Extension. So we're going to work on this. Moving on to the next subject. Hey, the last couple IndyCar races have been great. So,
do you think, getting back to the NHL CBA, and I do want to hear about what's going on at Macadoodles here in just a moment as well. Do you think they were able to close the loophole for the LTIR stuff? It's something that I know a lot of fans are very passionate about. When you think about like what's going to actually affect fans here, not just the players but the fans, the extra games are certainly one thing that will play into that. The increase in the cap space that changes the way the teams are constructed, which changes the way that you're able to enjoy your team. A big thing that fans have been very frustrated by in certain markets is this LTIR thing. Based on what you have read about it, the details that have so far been released, do you think they closed that loophole, Mike?
I think close enough. I think you're trying to get it to be the same as it is during the regular season is what the goal needs to be for this. To watch Tampa Bay openly mock LTIR and be $10 million over when oh shoot, the name escapes me. Is only the league MVP in the playoffs.
Sam Bennett?
No, with Tampa Bay when they did it the first time.
Was Kucherov?
Yeah, Nikita Kucherov, sorry. And they did it, Vegas did it when Mark Stone came back. It was every team that was winning was $10 to $15 million over the regular season salary cap. If you're doing that, you're playing the game. We saw the NHL this summer looking at Edmonton thinking Evander Kane's usage may have evaded it as well. So I think the language of it still to me is kind of, I want to read through the whole thing. Sure. But I think now it's going to be pretty well taken care of. Can't exploit it as much. The other thing is pretty cool in the CBA that I glossed over earlier is that teams will now be able to put a 19-year-old player in the American Hockey League. That's actually a really big thing. That hasn't been something in the past. It had to be 20 years old if you were from the Canadian Hockey League, major junior hockey. We've been clamoring for that for years. There's players who don't belong in major junior hockey as a 20-year-old that would be way better served in the AHL and the minors. That's a really, really big win for teams and for the players. If you
Wasn't that the decision with Jake Neighbors a couple of years ago, if I remember correctly? And they were either, it was juniors versus the NHL. He had that tryout, and then if I remember correctly, they sent him back down to juniors that year. And it was because he didn't meet the age requirements for the AHL.
Yeah, it is. And it used to be if you're playing in Canadian Hockey League, you had to be 20 years old. You could be from Europe, though, and go play in the American Hockey League at 18 or 19, and that was Klim Kostin.
And Dvorsky is doing that now, too, yeah.
And if you ask me, I think that cost Klim Kostin his career in the NHL. I think he shouldn't have played in the American League at 18. It accelerated so far beyond what was reality for him. Dude, 18 in that league in the American, dude, there are animals in the American League. He wasn't ready for that, and I think it delayed his progress. But the next year at 19 might have been a better thing for him. 18 was just way too early. So I'm happy to see it. It's something we've been asking for a long time on all sides.
Mike, this has been a wonderful hour talking hockey with you. We appreciate you doing this today on a Friday. I know you guys have everything possible going on over at Macadoodles. Tell us a little glimpse. Give us a little glimpse into what people can find over there right now.
Costco Ween Tequila, baby. This is some nice additive free stuff. That's one thing. The 4th of July was amazing, and we really found out how much people like canned cocktails. So we loaded up on Surfside. We loaded up on Good Boy. But we also found people are still drinking a whole lot of whiskey and bourbon. We've got a brand new Maker's Mark pick in our building, barrel pick, toasted honey. It's delicious. It's a little bit sweet. Have a couple other barrel picks floating around. And we still, throughout the month of July, have our buy one, get one for $1, equal or lesser price in our wine department. Amazing deals in wine. We're going to get through that and be able to keep bringing you those new releases. We've got some awesome stuff out of France. 98, 99 pointers from James Suckling, under $30. If you're a wine person, this is making you happy. So giving a lot of love to our wine room, giving a lot of love to those canned cocktails. Barrel picks keep coming. Macadoodles, Dardine Prairie, just north of the Page Extension.
Somebody from the 636 just asked, does he have any allocated whiskeys? Hell yeah, he does.
We have them on the shelf every day. The only problem is everybody wants. When they say allocated, they mean E.H. Taylor, Buffalo Trace. It's the same Blanton's. But we have had in the past week, we have had an E.H. Taylor or two on the shelves. We have had a Blanton or two on the shelves. It happens occasionally when we get them. but we only get so many like everybody. So we try to keep our customers happy.
You know what I appreciate about Mike McKenna and what I appreciate about Macadoodles? They're honest about that. There are some places that'll tell you they have them. You get there and they say, just sold out actually. Thanks for coming out. Appreciate it. Maybe next time. They never had it. They never had it. Mike McKenna, though, they're going to be honest with you over there at Macadoodles. Yep. Hey, Mike, we appreciate the time, man. This has been an absolute blast. We'll talk with you again next Friday.
I appreciate everybody sticking with me here with the audio issues. That's really cool. So have a great week, everyone. Be safe out there. Thanks again for having me.
You do the same. That's Mike McKenna, former NHL goalie. We appreciate his time. He joins us each and every Friday, and he does so on behalf of Macadoodles here on BK and Ferrario. Coming up next, we just had our Blues Hour. We will have a Cardinals Hour. We've got Brad Thompson, Cardinals analyst for FanDuel Sports Midwest. He's going to join us next here on BK and Ferrario.
101 ESPN has your chance to meet Adam Wainwright at this year's Big League Bash at the Factory July 27th. Our winner will receive 2 tickets to the Big League Bash, featuring Adam Wainwright in concert, along with appearances from Cardinals players and Fred Bird, a silent auction, and more. All to support Big League Impact. Plus, our winner and guest will receive 2 passes to meet Waino prior to the show. Tickets to the Big League Bash, supported by Community America Credit Union, are on sale now. Find all the details and that chance to win free Big League Bash tickets and meet and greet passes to meet Adam Wainwright right now at 101ESPN.com and on your 101 mobile app. Spread Zone, where sports betting meets reckless optimism, questionable logic, and the occasional stroke of genius. With hosts Anthony Stalter, Tim McKernan, and Scott Rizzuto. Check out the latest from the Spread Zone at 101ESPN.com or the 101 mobile app. The Spread Zone is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. WXOS HD1 East St. Louis. 101 ESPN is driven by Auto Centers Nissan, home of the lifetime warranty and 30-day return. This is exactly where you want to be, listening to us. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
Alongside Brad Thompson and Bradford Bruns, I'm Brandon Kiley. BT joining us in studio for the 1 o'clock hour. We had our 12 o'clock hour talking almost exclusively hockey. Now we've got our 1 o'clock hour. We'll be half Cardinals, half nonsense because BT's in with us.
I thought we were doing hockey. Are we not doing hockey?
No, I mean, if you want to do an audible, yesterday Jamie came in and said, hey, I want to talk about the Cardinals pitching. I thought we would talk a lot about the Blues. We ended up talking Cardinals for the hour.
Way better.
Our audience was a little disappointed. Some of them, many of them, though, enjoyed the conversation. So if you want to talk about the Blues, BT, you just let me know. You want to talk about rebrand? We can do that.
You know what? I like all the yellow. I'm digging it.
Yeah?
I like the colors. Let's just do baseball, though.
Okay.
That seems safer.
Let's do baseball instead. Good start last night by Miles Mikolas.
Why did you say that way? There was almost like a surprise in your voice when you said it. It was almost like it went up at the end like a question mark, like you weren't expecting that.
Would you believe?
That what it did?
I'm actually the Mikolas defender around these parts.
Okay.
They're 500 when he starts. He gives you a chance. He almost always goes at least 5 innings. It's not the prettiest thing in the world to watch at times. Last night was actually pretty fun to watch.
Really
Struck
good.
a few guys out. Like he looked legitimately good yesterday. What do you do with this situation that they have right now in their rotation, especially with Miles Mikolas, if you want to focus on that?
Let's start with him, right? You pitch him every 5 days is what you do, or 6 days, however the schedule works out. I mean, you're paying him $17 million for the season or somewhere around there. And to your earlier point, I get it. Like when the outings are bad, they've been bad. The outing in Chicago, 6 home runs. Look, we made fun of my career a lot. I didn't do that. But he has also had way more success at this level. So he had those 2 back-to-back outings that were not good. The 13, that's not like a small sample size. It's damn near a half season of starts. The 13 before that, he had a 3.5 ERA. He's giving you a chance.
Since Boston, it's a 4.2.
Right. I mean,
fine.
He's fine. That should be a 5th starter, and that's kind of what he should be at this point, right? So he gives you the opportunity. The issue that you run into, because I know not from, not on Twitter, I guarantee that the conversation is get rid of Mikolas, get rid of Fedde, and bring up the kids.
You don't
have
that
many
kids. That is our text line yesterday.
You don't have enough kids. You don't have kids ready. McGreevy's ready. McGreevy should be in the big leagues right now. We all know that, right? He should be here.
He will be in their heart of hearts.
Everybody knows that, right? Mo's talked about it. Ollie talked about it. He will be there. By the way, one of the biggest things with McGreevy's situation that I have so much respect for, and this is top to bottom, but Ollie is the spokesperson of it. He's the one talking to this guy as he's sending him down each time. The communication has been fantastic with McGreevy. Like, I've had
What
this...
do you mean by that? When fans hear that, sometimes they tune it out and they're like, oh, cool, so you're telling him that he's going down and he's taking it. Explain that.
He knows the situation. Like, it's not like, hey, I'm getting called up and I'm here. I've done that before. I've packed up my whole apartment from Memphis, came in to start against the Royals, getting ready to go on a road trip to Boston. I'm ready. I got my meal money. I'm like, God, I've never been to Boston before.
Staying in a nice hotel.
Tap on the shoulder. Hey, you're still not going to Boston. You're going right back to Memphis. So that car you packed up, like, communication is a really important thing. You look at McGreevy, first-round pick for you, and what you hope to be a stable part of your rotation for years to come. You better have a good relationship early, or I think it's important to have a good relationship. So every step along the way, they've been in communication of what the scenario looks like. This is, hey, you're here for this one turn, or you're here for 2 times. They're following up with him in Memphis. It's not like you get... that was always one of the hardest parts when you get sent down, and BK, as many times I get sent down, I know this. You feel like you are no longer a part of anything. Like, you're on a totally, yes, you're still in the same organization. Yeah, you were a part of something at the big league level. When you get sent down, you feel like you're out of it totally. They've done such a good job of communicating, not just with McGreevy, but these guys that they send down, like, realizing that they're still a part of it. I know it sounds like a silly thing, but it's a big thing. So getting back to the larger point.
Before we do that,
yeah.
Is that something that's changed? Like, do you think that is something that has improved, whether it be this year, over the last couple of years? Is that new?
Well, I think it is newer, well, at least from when I played, which is getting a long time away right now. But I think that communication has always been something that Ollie and his crew have really, really taken seriously. And it's Dusty calling down and checking on him and talking after starts and breaking stuff down. Like, this coaching staff, their jobs are much bigger and more encompassing than what we see on the field, right? So I do think it's an evolution of it, and it's an important one to be able to build those bridges and make your guys feel like they're still a part of it.
Sure.
So larger conversation. McGreevy's ready, okay? He'll be here at some point, not Saturday, but he'll be here.
Roughly August 1st is kind of a deadline of sorts as to when I would think that McGreevy will probably be here.
Truth serum, if you're giving it to the organization, they would hope so too. Yeah. Like, that might end up being the scenario, but who knows how any of this stuff shakes out. I just know this, like, for all the clamoring for McGreevy, and I totally get it, I'm a huge McGreevy backer, you don't have much depth ready behind him right now, and that's a larger issue, right? Yes, you got Quinn Matthews, who they're very high on, minor league pitcher of the year a year ago. Numbers.
Let's talk about last year.
Yeah, yes, right, and some command issues this year, some other issues this year. You've got Tekoa Roby, who they love, and I would love to see this kid in the big leagues at some point. You want to talk about swing and miss, something that this.
I wonder if he could maybe be a bullpen arm that they use down the stretch.
So that is a way that it kind of used to happen all the time, right? You ease a guy in, you get him in the bullpen. You come September time, maybe bring him up. I love that idea. We'll see. We'll see what that looks like. But again, swing and miss is something that the Cardinals don't have in the rotation, and they don't have it in the bullpen. So if you could bring in a guy that has that, Roby could potentially fit that bill. We'll see what that transition from minor leagues to big leagues looks like for him. But
end of list. We've gone through it. Like, that's it. Those are the guys that are close.
Yeah, that was it. Like, that was those are your young starters that are kind of there. So the problem is when everybody wanted to make these moves early, and after the Boston start, everybody was calling for the head of Miles Mikolas. What happens if you have an injury? The Cardinals are so fortunate right now, and they've done such a really good job of keeping their guys healthy. With Libby's start tonight, that'll be 18 starts for each one of their 5 starters. It's the first time that's happened for the Cardinals since 1933. Like, that is they
didn't even do that wasn't it 15 that they were crazy
before the
healthy?
break. Before the break.
Okay.
So 18 starts apiece before the break. So, yeah, very rarely do you get something like this. It has helped solidify things for the bullpen because the bullpen hasn't had to throw a ton of innings. So they've been lucky with the health. But they run into a couple of injuries. They're in some big, big trouble. So I like the way that they've rested their guys. But your depth is going to get tested.
Yeah, it was tested a little bit in that like June stretch where not the pitching side of things, but the position player side of things. The depth was tested there. It didn't always hold up, but all things considered, they put themselves into a position where they can at least be competitive. When you think, BT, about how the Cardinals got here, right, with their pitching, I think some have looked back to the offseason and have said, why didn't you trade Fedde then? He's coming off of a good season. You extract value there, and that's when you make the move, right? When you hear that critique, one of the things that I've pushed back against with that is, okay, I guess we assumed at that time that Matthew Liberatore was going to be starting. Because if you don't, man, you're a real light. Because now you've got Steven Matz as a part of your rotation, and you need him to be a part of it. McGreevy probably in that scenario is also a part of your rotation. And now you have nobody at the AAA level to be able to backfill in the event that there's one injury. And Steven Matz you could probably count on to be an injury. So when you think about the offseason and what they had there, how do you feel like they thought through some of those ideas?
Well, for him specifically, when we're talking about Fedde, I think that they looked at it as, we just talked about the pitching depth, right? And certainly in the offseason, you go out and buy more pitching. Pitching's expensive, as we all know. Fedde, a very reasonable contract, 2 years, $15 million, so on the hook for $7.5 million. I just did that math right for this season. That's not much for an established starter. So I think the thought process was, hey, we'll have him here. He's going to help us. He's going to end up eating up innings. We hope he does what he did in 2023. He was ridden hard, especially in that first half. Hopefully coming in fresh, he'll be good for us. And then if you get up to the deadline, then you have a decision to make. Then you have a piece. Right now, the way that things have gone for Fedde here over the last couple of games, your trade piece doesn't feel as good right now. So many people are wondering, like, hey, well, why is he starting Saturday? That probably, without hearing from anybody directly, just reading the tea leaves, probably has a little bit of something to do with it. There's a couple of things with Fedde, too, that I was thinking about this today driving in, because I'm a big Fedde fan also. He's a Vegas kid. I knew him when he was in high school and college. I like Erick Fedde a lot. He also
seems like a stand-up dude. He's answered for all of the questions.
And look, and he's had big league success. We've seen him do it. We saw him do it last year. But I was thinking about him like a rookie pitcher, like a young pitcher today, because you think about the evolution of him. He had his run, parts of 6 years with the Nationals. He goes over to the KBO, has tremendous success. He wins their Choi Dong-Hwan Award, which is their Cy Young. Triple Crown winner over there. Reinvented himself a bit, right? Started throwing that bigger sweeper, had the changeup, comes back to the big leagues. First year, he's a different dude. He's awesome. The league doesn't know what to do with him. Second year, comes in. League knows what Fedde's doing now, right?
We've never seen that with the Cardinals, where second year, league knows you, league adjusts.
It happens. But usually you think about it with a younger guy, right?
Sure, yeah.
This is a veteran guy, but I think that maybe some of the similar patterns are happening there. You look at some of the batted ball numbers against specifically his cutter. Cutter's getting crushed. You look at the data on it, though. It's the same pitch that it was a year ago. Some of the misses are a little bit different. The last couple of starts, all the misses for him have been thigh high. But I feel like there's part of that is the league is, okay, this is what Fedde is now. We'll make those adjustments. Now, what adjustments can he make? I know it's a weird thing to talk about with a veteran pitcher, but I think it's true. I think we saw Miles Mikolas as an example of that in the ball game last night. He pitched different. He used his bigger, slower breaking ball more. He used his changeup a lot more to lefties and righties. He did a good job of keeping guys off balance. When you don't have stuff, when you're not a 98, 99, 100 guy, you better figure out different ways to evolve. And I think that Fedde might be going through some of that.
What was that award that he won?
The Choi Dong-Hwan Award.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it's a great one. You should see the trophy.
You've seen it?
Yeah, it's a pretty good-looking piece.
Big?
It's huge.
Interesting.
Mantelpiece. Conversation piece, certainly.
Definitely a conversation starter.
Where'd you win that? Korea.
Yeah.
It's a nice piece. Anyways, Choi Dong-Won Award.
It's a great one, and I'm sure he has that prominently featured in his home.
Yeah.
I do want to ask you something, because we talked about this a little bit yesterday with Jamie. I want to get into it with you. We'll do it on the other side. A lot of people...
That's a tease.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Jamie mentioned yesterday, man, I just wish they had young, upside pitching. Like, I wish that's what they were trying to bet on this season, instead of betting on older veteran starters that you kind of know what you're getting with Fedde and Mikolas. Like, that's the idea, at least, that you would prefer to have that young, upside pitching. What are some of the pitfalls of betting on that kind of pitching? I want to ask that of BT when we do that next year on 101 ESPN.
You can now listen to 101 ESPN on demand. Get caught up on all our shows and podcasts at 101ESPN.com or on the 101 mobile app. 101 ESPN podcasts are presented by the Schaefer Door Company. They are St. Louis. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
So yesterday we had the conversation with Jamie Rivers here on the show about, all right, what did you want the Cardinals to do? Right? They have Erick Fedde, they have Miles Mikolas. Obviously, that's not like the ideal scenario, but it is what it is. It's what they had. They had them coming back, and you come into the season, and this is a team that felt like it needed the stability. That was their explanation a couple of years ago with us, whenever we had, at the time, Michael Gersh, who was then the general manager, now is the special assistant. So they wanted some stability there. And Fedde and Mikolas, they felt like provided that. They were going to go out there every fifth day. They could eat those innings for the team. Jamie said yesterday, yeah, but I would rather have high upside, young talent. Like, bet on those guys the way that they have with some of their young talent on the position player side of things. And I said to Jamie at the time, and I'm curious your thoughts on this, BT. Really would like to get your opinion on it. Those guys are either really expensive. Like, you go out to the free agent market, young, high upside pitchers, you're paying $200 million for those guys. Or they're probably injured. and they're available because they're hurt, or they have a lack of a track record at the big league level where they could be going up and down. You don't know what to expect on them in any given night. And then suddenly you're getting 3 innings out of your starter, and they're getting blown up. And now you have the same issue that you're dealing with Fedde lately that we want him out of the rotation for. So when you think about what the Cardinals had coming into the season and what they built around, what is the value of having guys like Mikolas and Fedde versus having young, high upside options that are in your rotation?
Hey, look, there are pros and cons on both sides of this. Like, I think that you would love to have a rotation full of like high, homegrown, high upside guys that you cost controlled already. Like that is every team's dream to have guys like that. You look over at the Reds; they got a bunch of young, cost controlled guys that they drafted and developed into their rotation. Coming into the season, like I like balance. Sometimes if you have just nothing but young, shoot for the moon starters, you might get some great stuff. You might also get some awful stuff. To your point, you also run the risk of really hurting some guys' development by rushing them out there too early. And when you do think about young starters for a full big league season, it's a long time, right? Like that is a long 6 months that you don't deal with in the minor leagues. So there's a lot of variables with that. With Fedde, with Mikolas, they've got track records. Like you knew what these guys were. You knew they're going to eat innings. You knew they probably weren't going to win a Choi Dong-Hwan award, which, by the way, appreciate all of the text in to the text line because a couple of pictures of the award came in. One of them was maybe a depiction of what they think the award looks like. And then another one of the actual award did come in. I told you, it's a pretty impressive piece, isn't it?
It is very, it's golden, actually.
No, it really is. Yep. No, it doesn't. The arm doesn't have a spring or anything like that. That would be a great addition to it, but it would really not class up the piece. Anyways, you knew what you were going to get, and then the Cardinals also had some risk involved in their rotation. Like balance, I think, is a very important thing. Sure. Libby throwing him in a little bit of risk, especially risk on both ends, actually. One, because he had turned into an incredibly valuable piece in your bullpen. He was a guy that you knew late innings from the left side, he could go out and dominate. He really grew into that role. That was an important one. And so putting him in the rotation, you risk just, can somebody pick that up? Can somebody do that? And then you see, can he do it at this big league level? He's 25 years old. We traded for this guy. We wanted to see what he had, but there's risk there. I think that there was still risk involved in Palante. Again, another young starter that you had in the rotation to go with Gray and Fedde and Mikolas. So balance, I think, is always a really important thing to have. You shoot for the moon with a bunch of young starters. I don't think that you're going to you might find out something about them. I don't think that you're going to win a ton of games that way.
Sure. And it can go either way, right? Maybe find out something good. Or we also have to acknowledge the inverse of that, which is you might find out something really bad. They either get hurt quickly and can't withstand the rigors of a 162-game schedule, or they don't adjust to the big league level. And yes, you're getting those strikeouts. They're also walking the world. And now suddenly they're out in the third inning. It impacts not only what you're doing that day, but also how you can manage the next 2 days. And we've seen some of that over the years here in St. Louis as well. So it can be a high risk, high reward type of a move.
To your point, you're absolutely right. Like those blow up your bullpens, and then that ruins weeks, and then you're on the shuttle all the time. Like things can snowball so quickly. The preparation that you have to have for your bullpen and being ready there is a lot more work than I think people give credit to. So while you might look at Mikolas the last couple of years, and by the way, he was under contract for $17 million. You weren't going to cut bait coming into the season. I know he had a rough year last year.
Maybe the Yankees would. The Cardinals just aren't doing that.
They're not doing. They've never done it. Never. Right. And I get it. Right. Some teams will eat money like that. Was it the Red Sox years back? I mean, they had so much money that they were paying people to be home. It was incredible.
Dodgers have done that.
Yeah, Cardinals don't operate like that. But you knew that you were going to get some. You knew you had innings. You knew you had a guy that has been healthy. That is a big thing to have. And again, you knew that your depth was going to be tested in the upper minor leagues. You got some good arms coming, but you knew that you didn't have that many guys big league ready. So it's coming into the season. They weren't going to go out and make a big splash. You weren't going to go get your cost-controlled starter and spend $170 million on somebody. That just wasn't in the cards this offseason. Sure.
So, final question on this, pitching-wise. I heard you earlier this week with the Fast Lane, and they asked you about, what's the plan for the deadline? What do you go out there and get? And you kind of turned the question on Stalter, and you said, what do you want them to get at the trade deadline? And Stalter said, well, pitching. I want cost-controlled pitching. You said, all right, well, you're going to have to pay an arm and a leg for that.
Yeah, you're a seller now.
When you think about acquiring that, right? Like over on ESPN.com, Jeff Passan wrote yesterday, hey, Taj Bradley is a guy that would make all the sense in the world for the Cardinals. He's young, he's cost controlled, he's got good stuff, he's got some strikeout stuff there. The results have not always matched what the stuff is. He's got like a 4.5 ERA this year. So if you're unhappy with Miles Mikolas, Taj Bradley has a worse ERA on the season than Miles Mikolas does.
Does have the upside, obviously.
But there's upside there. And he's cost controlled, so he's cheap. BT, when you think about the Cardinals at the trade deadline, is that realistic? Could they make a move like that?
Yeah, but it's going to be expensive. Like when I say expensive, I mean prospect capital, right? So to get good pieces, you have to move what you believe to be good pieces. And the hard part right now, I think, for the Cardinals, and just like spitballing names, I'm not saying they're thinking about trading these names, but whatever they are, like whoever it is, like Newt Barr, or teams will call about him. You're not going to move Donovan, but Newt, Walker, Gorman, like all these guys. Nobody's having a tremendous season where you're trading high either, right? Like on the value of what you wish it would be to go and get a guy. You do have Helsley is still a piece. If you think that you're going to be in the thick of it, that's a tough one to trade, boy. Your closer when you're in a wild card race or hopefully a division race. So yes, anything is possible to attain, but what are you? They've been spending time trying to acquire prospect capital and get back to that point of where they have it. Now, I think that you can look at it and say you've got a surplus in the middle infield, and then all of a sudden, by the way, you have a surplus of catching, which has not happened in a long time. I think 4 of the Cardinals' top 10 prospects are catchers.
And that's what Passan brought up. He said, hey, the Rays need catching. You have a surplus of catching options right now. Could there be a deal that's
for sure?
There
for sure. And so when it comes to deals like that and in areas of surplus, yes, but you're going to have to be very careful of what are you cutting ties with, and you got to be right. And I know that is it's a tough proposition, I think, for any organization to move on from maybe what was a prospect at a time. But you do need, you need badly upside pitching. One of the biggest needs in this organization is swing and miss. You look at the rotation right now. The Cardinals have not just the rotation; their pitching staff is the lowest whiff rate in baseball, like across the board. Swing and miss. No, and they have a phenomenal defense, and their defense has kept them in games. They've won so many games for them. But if you could keep a phenomenal defense and not test them all the time, that would be of great benefit. So it is a certain need for this team.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. We'll do One's Gotta Go with BT today. So if you guys have any One's Gotta Go scenarios, you give us 4 options. We'll tell you which one's gotta go. We'll do that coming up here in just about 5 minutes or so. BT, who do you think are the players on this roster right now, like the big league roster, that have the most trade value? Whether that be as a seller or in the scenario where you're like buying and selling. So you're going out and acquiring a Taj Bradley, for example. I'm just using that name because he was thrown out there. So we know, like, hey, this is somebody that would make sense for them.
Like Mick Abel from the Phillies.
Sure, throw him out there. Whoever. Like, use the names as the placeholders. But if you were
like Bobby Miller from the Dodgers.
Do you?
Yeah, I still do.
Man,
just because watching him last year carve us up.
It's the best stuff I've seen all season. In the last 2 years, I think that was the best stuff I saw.
His changeup was like it was like the Bugs Bunny skit where you're just like, okay, well,
I don't understand how he's not
like
the best pitcher in baseball right now. It doesn't make sense to me.
We'll fix him.
So probably Bobby Miller, Mick Abel, Taj Bradley. If the Cardinals wanted to go make a move like that, who are the players on the current big league roster that you think have the most trade value?
Oh, are you asking me that now? I thought you were teasing again.
Oh, no, we're going to do One's Got to Go on the other side.
Okay.
We don't follow the actual clock.
No, I've noticed that being a guest on your show. Right, it's guys you don't want to get rid of. Donovan has a tremendous amount of trade value for you. Like, he has got a lot. I still believe that Helsley has a lot of trade value for you. If you are a club, I mentioned the Phillies earlier, Mick Abel, like, they would love to bring him in. I'm sure that Clase is going to get a whole lot of run there in Cleveland. Everybody's going to want to acquire him. He'd probably be the number 1 closer that teams are going after. I would think that Helsley and Maton are going to be 2 guys that get a lot of calls for the Cardinals. But that's the thing. If you are really trying to acquire like something that is part of your future, you're getting rid of things that you don't want to get rid of. Like, who to you on this team, just flipping the question a little bit, who is untradeable for you?
Donnie.
Is that it? I got one for you real quick.
Yeah.
What about, not healthy right now, what about Herrera? Is Herrera tradable for you in the right deal?
You added the correct thing there.
In the right deal.
In the right deal. I don't know that a deal would present itself that would allow for me to do that. The bat is so good. and there's so much potential flexibility of I haven't seen him play elsewhere on the diamond. Could he play first? Could he play in the outfield? Is that
some reps
possible
in Memphis
for him?
in the outfield, maybe practicing, just out there with Willie McGee, I think.
If that's possible, that's a guy I'm building around. So realistically speaking, I'm probably not dealing him.
And the point in asking that is it's going to hurt bad. Like if you really want to get that. And this is where scouting is very important, is being able to pick over somebody else's organization and find that piece that maybe they don't understand what they have.
Yeah.
Like finding some of
you have to do to them what the Marlins at the time did with like Gallen.
Yeah, and find like what is that pitch that this guy has that maybe they're missing a little bit of. And that's part of, I know you guys had Rob Cerfolio on. Part of what his crew does, I mean, that's it, is finding that little thing and then figuring out how do we make that next level transition there. But it's uncomfortable. It's going to get very uncomfortable at the trade deadline if that's what you're looking for.
He's Brad Thompson. That's Bradford Bruns. I'm Brandon Kiley. Coming up next, we're going to play One's Gotta Go. I think to finish off this hour, we'll go ahead and do some questions with BT from the audience. So 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for that as well. One's Gotta Go. You give us 4 options. We'll tell you which one's got to go next here on BK and Ferrario.
101 ESPN is powered by Kaufman Townsley St. Louis's injury lawyers. Call 314-500-5000.
It is time to unlock your inner champion. There's one place to do that. It is with Victory Men's Health. Check them out today. They have 4 great locations across the St. Louis area: O'Fallon, Illinois, O'Fallon, Missouri, Sunset Hills, and the location that I personally go to over in Town and Country. Unlocking your inner champion means different things for different people. For some, that means dealing with erectile dysfunction issues. They can help you out with that over at Victory Men's Health. It could also mean weight loss goals that you're trying to meet. It could mean you've dealt with some low testosterone symptoms. You don't have the same energy as you once did. Your workouts aren't giving you the same results. Could be signs of low testosterone. They can check those levels for you over at Victory Men's Health. They can also tell you about their vitamin infusion programs, their red light therapy programs, cardiovascular testing, micronutrient level testing. They've got it all for you at Victory Men's Health. Check them out today and book that first appointment online at victorymenshealth.com. That first appointment's super easy to book. Name, email, phone number. Tell them BK with 101 ESPN sent you, and tell them what it means for you to unlock your inner champion. It's all at Victory Men's Health and online at victorymenshealth.com.
Open up your 101 mobile app for your chance to win a pair of 4-day passes for Major League Pickleball. Sponsored by Stella Artois. July 17th through July 20th at Chaffetz Arena. 101 ESPN listeners can get a special discount on single-day and 4-day tickets by using the code WXOS. Find all the details on that special discount code and that chance to score free 4-day passes for Major League Pickleball. Sponsored by Stella Artois. Right now at 101ESPN.com or on your 101 mobile app. 101 ESPN Sports Center.
Braves limp into Busch. Good afternoon. I'm Bradford Bruns. Your Sports Center update is driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet, plus Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Scuffling Atlanta has lost 6 of its past 7 games entering tonight's series opener against St. Louis. National League East-wise, the Braves currently occupying 4th place. STL, of course, just battered that division's bottom feeder, Washington 8-1. Ali Marmol tabs Southpaw Matthew Liberatore for this one starting at 7:15. Weekend soccer, City SC will host Portland on Sunday. Midfielder Edward Leuven could return from his hamstring injury. Your Sports Center update was driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
Giving you the picture, the real big St. Louis sports picture. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN. This is BK and Ferrario. Time now for One's Gotta Go. We offer up the talking points, and you get to pick which one's gotta go on 101 ESPN. Count that big pen.
Alongside Brad Thompson and Bradford Bruns, I'm Brandon Kiley. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Let's get into One's Gotta Go. You give us 4 options, we'll tell you which one's gotta go here on BK and Ferrario. 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line. Also the YouTube chat, youtube.com/101ESPNSTL. And we'll get to some questions for BT in the next segment as well.
Oh, love that. I love this segment, by the way.
Oh, good.
Big fan of One's Gotta Go.
I'm glad that you enjoy it. I'm glad you can be a part of it today.
You know, then...
They all are, really.
Don't give me like 4 broadcasters or something. You know, that's tough. Or whatever. You know, pick a scenario, any scenario.
Or just not that one. One's gotta go. French fry edition, shoestring, curly, crinkle, or waffle.
This is easy of one.
Really?
This is called
Okay.
a layup right off the bat. Shoestring. Gotta go.
Oh, we're on the same page here. I wasn't sure
They
which
get cold too
direction.
fast. They get cold really quickly, and then sometimes if you don't have proper fry technique, which you know most of these places, if you're doing a shoestring, you're probably going to have it, but you can burn them real easy too. Shoestring's got to go.
You know what? I'm going to get flamed for this on the text line, I would imagine. You know what I do not like the fries from is, God, why am I blanking on the name of it right now? They have it in St. Charles. It's the old one. I was about to bring it up, and then I just immediately
it seemed like it was
lost.
going to be a great point.
Yep.
And they have a shoestring potato.
Very
They have a
memorable.
shoestring potato.
It's not Freddy's. Freddy's got a shoestring.
No.
Got a good burger on there.
Freddy's for the win, buddy.
It's a good burger.
Go ahead and look this up right quick. What was your answer, by the way,
Yeah,
Bradford?
what do you got, Bradford?
Gotta go shoestring as well. You know what? It's kind of ironic, but sometimes the fingers aren't exactly that nimble to be able to handle those shoestrings.
No, that's
get
actually
them
a good
out,
point,
get
because
them
if you're dipping into some ketchup, right, and you grab a bunch of shoestrings, if you have like a little carafe, if you will, of ketchup,
yeah, good
and
word.
then they all spread out, that's hard to get in there.
out. What can you do?
And by the way, and maybe this is going off the rails a little bit, but that's never been an issue for me. I feel like you're a little bit of a psychopath, and I'll just look directly at the camera. If you put ketchup all over your French fries and then eat
do
them,
that?
you got problems.
Steak and Shake. Don't like their fries. Not good.
No, they suck.
Yeah, not good.
Yeah.
We're on the same page here.
Yeah.
BT, it's you and
Good
me
burger,
versus
though.
a
Good burger.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's you and me versus a very angry crowd right now.
Bradford's, no, they're not angry. They'll
No?
be fine. This says Steak and Shake, they use beef tallow now.
Oh.
Also says it sucks butt. But
Thanks for cleaning it up.
Not the
but it's
opinion
way-
of 101 ESPN,
No,
but maybe
gosh,
the
no.
opinion of that listener.
but way healthier for you. Beef tallow. Nice work. Nice work.
We're starting to really class up the joint. All right. One's got to go baseball movie edition. Bull Durham, Field of Dreams, The Natural, or Major League.
Oh, again, easy for me and will be pushback. The Natural's got to go for me.
Oh, wow.
I am not interested in it at all. Like, I don't enjoy the
Doesn't do
Natural.
it for you.
No, the other 3, in. Like, Major League's my favorite baseball
I'm
movie,
not
I think.
surprised by that. It
Yeah.
feels like it's kind of got the
Yeah.
BT.
Got enough humor
style
to it. Got some baseball. It's good.
Bull Durham, similar concept
Okay,
there.
what about you guys?
I would probably go Field of Dreams here. That would be my one's got to go on this one.
Okay.
And I like The Natural, though. It is something that appeals to me.
me out a winner, Bobby.
Hey, I'm loving the
It could also be
mystique.
because I saw it through a child's eyes, so I'm thinking about it through
Creepy.
like 15-year-old man, 15-year-old BK. So that might be part of this.
There's something about Robert Redford swinging that lefty stick. I didn't care for the Glenn Close subplot, but still, The
Yeah.
Natural, give me that aura. If it's between one of the 2 Costner flicks, regrettably, I do have to say Field of Dreams as well, BK. Barely.
All right, one's got to go Cardinals giveaway that Chip and BT wear in the booth edition.
Ooh.
The swag chain, the Fredbird hat, or the Cardinals Hawaiian sweatshirt. Or shirt, not sweatshirt.
Okay, out of the
not
sweatshirt,
sweatshirt, you're not wearing that in the summer.
No, it's going to be tough. Out of those 3, I'm probably going to pick the Hawaiian shirt. Now, Chip would push back on that. Chip hates wearing the polo shirt, but he's a big, like,
does
Tommy
he?
Bahama guy. Yeah, he's a Florida guy, St. Augustine. Like, he's Mr. Florida. So for me, that one's got to go.
The swag chain just wouldn't feel fully authentic for me, so it has to go But BT,
God, I felt like I had a new aura when I put that thing on.
BT, afterward, I
Started
need
limping.
to talk to you about the Fredbird hat. Actually, the wife is quite interested, so we'll take that off air.
Look,
Our
I
son
gotcha.
wears that around the house pretty regularly.
The hat is a hit. Everywhere we go on the road, you see that hat. Like somebody's rocking it. And it doesn't matter if it's 100 in Pittsburgh or if it's a chilly evening, which I suggest. You probably should rock it if it's chilly.
No doubt.
But that thing has been a hit. Nice
How
work
was Pittsburgh? You guys like those road trips out there?
I love Pittsburgh. I know
like
you were
the
there the
city.
following week, right?
I love Pittsburgh as a city. It feels like every time that you have been there, it is either 30 degrees or the worst rainstorm that you've ever
was
seen.
exactly what happened this year. It was the first road trip of the year was Boston-Pittsburgh, nice and brisk early, and then it was crazy hot and rain last time we were there, and no runs. So
yeah, that
rough. Part wasn't the best.
One's got to go. I think this was for Bradford specifically, so we could get his thoughts on it first.
College football? Again?
No, one's got to go word edition. Kerfuffle, juxtaposition, Papapalooza, or bazooka.
Papapalooza?
I just read what the text line sends in. That's all I can do.
You know what these are? Those are all words that we got into a broadcast 2 nights ago.
Really?
All of those.
Are you serious?
Had 13 of them actually to get in. 13 words.
Where did these come from?
They came from the players.
Really?
Yeah. Little. I think they might end up doing a social media video on this, but we got 13 words, and we had each one. Juxtaposition, I believe, was Miles Mikolas' word. Papapalooza came from Victor Scott II. Bazooka, I think, came from Hampson. I forget where they all came from. Tuna sandwich was one. That came from Matthew Liberatore.
Did you work that in, or did Chip
I made up a whole story about tuna sandwiches.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I'm going to ask a follow-up on this real quick.
Please do.
Who's your favorite player to converse with off to the side?
Oh, man.
Baseball or otherwise? I know they're all great. I know.
Tied for first, as Tony would say.
Yes.
No, a couple of them stick out. Like, Donnie is just so intentional in his conversation. He's so real, and he'll sit there and just talk to you forever. I also really enjoy Alec Burleson. And from a pitching standpoint, I love talking to Libby. Like he's just a good kid. He gets it. He's learning. He's not afraid to ask questions. Also, just to enjoy talking to those guys.
Who's the funniest guy on the team in your experience?
Probably. Yeah, Mikolas is funny.
Is there anybody else that people would be surprised by how funny they are? Behind the scenes.
Burley is really funny. And he'll do it in a dry way.
I was going to say more of a dry sense, right?
Yeah. But he's freaking hilarious. But the whole group, they've got good energy. Like, there's nobody in that room where you're like, oh, okay, here comes. Like, that guy's not around. Like, there's a reason that the clubhouse has as good of vibes as it does. Got a bunch of good dudes in there.
All right, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. I do want to get to some of your questions. Oh, by the way, Bradford, you never answered that.
Oh, yeah, what do you got? Which one's got to go?
Kerfuffle, juxtaposition, Papapalooza. I don't know how you worked that in. And bazooka. I don't believe that actually ended up on the broadcast. That's amazing.
BK, I think you know me well enough by now. BT, same thing. That I'm taking the one with the fewest number of syllables. So no, bazooka's too plain. Get it out.
Yeah. Too easy to work into a conversation.
Yeah,
a bazooka of an arm.
That's exactly. And it came up right field. We score because the guy doesn't exactly have a bazooka out there in right. So,
do you remember how you worked in Papapalooza?
Chip did, and it was maybe it was Contreras hitting and say, "Hey, looking for a little Papapalooza right here." Yeah. He's good.
That is so good. He's such a pro. All right, coming up next, the Rewind. We'll get to some of your questions. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. Or if you want to get them in on the YouTube chat as well, youtube.com/101ESPN-STL. We'll use this as almost an Ask Us Anything. If you guys have any questions for BT Sports or otherwise, get them in now, and we'll get to those next here on 101 ESPN.
The MLB is on ESPN. Tomorrow, Yankees and Cubs. Pre-game at 11:30. First pitch at 12:05. The MLB plays on 101 ESPN. We're right back to more of it. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN. Let's run it back with a daily rewind on BK and Ferrario. Brought to you by Gloria Loom, your home sold guaranteed realty. Selling your home begins at GloriaHasTheBuyers.com.
All right, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. Keep that number handy for two reasons. One, to get your questions in for BT. We'll do kind of an Ask Us Anything here at the end of the show. Also, because at the end of this segment, I will give you a chance to score a pair of 4-day passes for Major League Pickleball. That is sponsored by Stella Artois. It is next Thursday, July the 17th through Sunday, July the 20th. That is all going to be taking place at Chaffetz Arena. It is hosted by the hometown St. Louis Shock. The event will be the largest ever indoor pro pickleball event. 101 ESPN listeners can also get a special discount on single-day and 4-day tickets by using the promo code WXOS. That's WXOS. But coming up here in just about 10 minutes or so, we'll give you a chance to score a pair of 4-day passes to get them for free.
Pickleball at the highest level is must-miss.
Are you a big Vegas guy? Like, let me ask this a different way because it's your hometown,
from Las
obviously.
Vegas, yeah.
Yes. Are you a big Vegas Strip guy?
No.
Do you enjoy going to the Strip?
I enjoy going to the Strip, like sometimes, but like it was special occasion going down to the Strip, or like guys' night out, or every once in a while you're going to a club or want to gamble. But there's so many places to go off the Strip that you didn't have to deal with the hustle and bustle of it.
I like going. Circa doesn't sponsor the show anymore, so this isn't like a free plug for them. But like, I like going to that area where Circa's at. It's awesome.
Yeah, Fremont Street, all that stuff over there, Old Vegas.
And it's really fun. It's developed a lot
They
over
cleaned
the
it
last
up a
couple
lot.
of years. It's different. If you went like 10 years ago, I would recommend going again because it's going to be a very different experience probably than what you used to have out there. All right, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line from the 319. BT, if you could bring back one rule for baseball or take away a rule from baseball to make the game more similar to what it used to be, what would you choose to do?
Ooh, this is a great question. I've been okay with the pitch clock. I haven't had to deal with that as a pitcher, so that hasn't bothered me. It looks like everybody's been okay with that. One that I do miss, so I grew up watching, and I bet a lot of our listeners grew up watching This Week in Baseball.
Sure.
Like Mel Allen, and a guy that was always on there happened to be Ozzie Smith. Right? Great defense is one of my favorite things to watch. But some of the most majestic plays I think that Ozzie would make sometimes is around the bag when somebody's trying to blow him up. I miss contact on the bases. I miss being able to blow somebody up. This isn't about them. This is me answering this question. I just miss the footwork and the nuance around the base. Like now, you could just sit there and just turn into a first baseman and be fine. Sure. Back in the day, you had to watch out because Matt Holliday's coming and Marco Scudero is going to be in left field. Or Chris Duncan was coming in hot and he would form tackle somebody at second base. Like I watched that monster maul so many people.
Ivan Herrera coming at you.
Yeah,
that guy's a monster. Oh my God. No, thank you.
With his aggression.
Yeah.
Murder somebody out there.
Good.
So I miss that, but I don't miss it necessarily at the plate. I don't think they're just blind tackling somebody. I don't miss that at all, but I do miss it at second base.
Are you a bowler? Did I not know this about you and you're a big bowler?
Well, I used to be a big PBA guy.
Somebody said, have you ever bowled a 300?
If you combine my 3 games.
Okay.
Yes. No, I do not. I carry about a 175 average.
That's pretty good.
It's decent.
For like a random guy walking down the street, I feel like 175 is good. Am I wrong on that?
Not everybody's Pete Weber. Come on now.
Yeah.
That's solid.
That is very true. St. Louis's own.
I use bumpers.
Pete Weber.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers. Ask us anything, whatever you want to call it. BT, what is your favorite reasonably priced golf course in the Vegas area? I'll expand this. What's your favorite reasonably priced golf course in general?
In general, I haven't golfed in Vegas in so long. It's been forever there. So yeah, good call on that. Look, there's so much great golf around here. One of my favorite tracks around here. I'm on the ill side, so by me, I love Far Oaks. It's just a fun one. But Ambrier out in Waterloo, who, by the way, Mackenzie Gore the other day, we didn't get this in on the broadcast as he was shoving, but not only is he a really good pitcher, apparently he hit a hole-in-one the other day at Ambrier on the off day. So just a real jerk, that Mackenzie Gore. Just good at everything. Just firing darts.
That's so annoying.
Yes.
When you got a good-looking guy, young, going to make a ton of money, great at baseball. I mean, come on. Good at golf, too?
Started with good looking, you did, huh?
Well,
I went with like good pitcher.
You know,
left-handed.
Listen, some guys got it all, right?
Tight pants.
From 314, BT, do you and Chip ever get into trouble for your on-air antics or being too silly? I think you guys are highly entertaining. Does anybody else see it differently?
What kind of antics? I don't even know what you're talking about. What? Do we?
What was that? What was that award again?
The Choi Dong-Won Award.
Okay.
Which is a real award.
You brought the balls to the broadcast the other day.
Crystal ball.
Yep.
Crystal balls. Both of them. If you don't have a backup crystal ball, you're not
really,
doing
what are
right.
you doing?
But yes, of course. They never
It's like
work.
the Cardinals not having a sixth starter in AAA.
They have a sixth starter. They just don't have a seventh. No. Look, here's the thing with... I think Chip and I both agree on this. Number one, the game is number one, and the players are not number one. Like, that's the first thing that you're worried about. But sometimes, like, there are some games where it's okay to get off on a tangent if you can end 100%. Up bringing it back. So we like to have fun. We have a blast. It's still, to me, it's an entertainment industry still. Like, if you're watching and if I'm watching another game and the broadcaster's having fun, I'm having fun. I'm engaged. That's kind of the way that we look at it.
Sure. My wife loves watching the broadcasts, and if nothing else, like that's kind of your target audience.
That means
right?
a lot. Yes,
that's
get
who
families
you want
in
to watch. Is the people I'm going to be watching no matter what. Right, you've got.
Yes,
I'm watching for my job, but also because I love baseball.
Kind of have to. Yeah.
My wife is somebody that if you add a little something to the broadcast, you make it fun. That's who you're really playing to, and it works. What you guys are doing?
So to answer the question, no, we haven't gotten in trouble yet. Yeah, not yet.
Time.
Yes, I mean that's the way I go out. I know this for sure. Like, it's going to be like a one where it's like, oh no, I said that accidentally. Because sometimes my mind works pretty quick, and you've been around me when a microphone's not in front of my face. Sometimes things just come out.
Yeah,
that's going to happen. Like,
it's amazing between you and Jamie that nothing comes out.
You know what? Let's knock on wood there.
The fact that you guys worked together as long as you did on the same show.
Yeah.
And it kept humming, baby.
And I've only, again, knock on wood, because I'm going to go on air tonight. I've only had one curse word ever on air.
That's amazing.
On the fast lane when I first started with DeMarco Farr and Randy Carricker. And when I had I said something and it came out a little wrong, and then I went, oh, S word.
Yeah.
And then they being great teammates, started laughing uncontrollably. Then we had to dump it. But that's the only one I've had there.
All right, we got this one from the 618. Guys, I'm finishing up the Ankiel book. BT, you were with him as a pitcher and a hitter. What was it like to see him go through all of that is in his story?
Yeah, and his story is so fascinating. I mean, it really is. It's a test of... to me, he's one of the most impressive athletes to ever play anything. I mean, just the skill set that was there, but mentally being able to get over that hurdle and come back and not only just make a run, but turn himself into a new career. It was awesome. I had the opportunity, obviously, to play with him here in St. Louis. Him and I were teammates in Kansas City as well in 2010. We both went over there, and truly amazing. You don't get a chance to see something like that very often. So if you haven't read his book yet, I suggest picking it up.
From the 314, BT, after the final pitch in the World Series, did you leap over the bullpen wall or wait for security to open the door?
Nope, did not leap over. We were in a good bunch in the bullpen. We were ready to charge. I believe, who was in front there? It was Loop. I forget who it was, right in the front of the thing, ready to open the door. I will say, as soon as we got through, because there were a lot of police presence trying to keep everybody healthy and happy and everybody else off the field. The fastest sprint I've ever done in my life, though, BK. Right into the party, right into the middle.
Jubilation.
Yeah, stuff like that gets me all excited again.
When you are experiencing that as somebody, I can't even imagine, right? Like when you're a 7-year-old kid, you dream of that exact moment, right? And you've actually achieved it. Can you describe in words what the next 24 hours is like? Not just that exact moment, but what the next 24, 48 hours is like.
Truly a blur and surreal. It really is, because it is, as you mentioned, it's every kid's dream to play in the big leagues and win a World Series. And you even put yourself in the position of Adam Wainwright, where you strike out the final batter of the game and everybody's coming in. Now, my position was a little different. I tackled him from a few hundred yards back afterwards. But no, the longer you are away from it, the more it sinks in that it truly is a dream realized. And when I get an opportunity to talk to some of these young guys, and you get to talk to the players during the season. One of my favorite times, though, is talking to guys during the Cardinal Caravan. We're in a bus together. We're just sitting around. And everybody telling these stories of their playing career, and then talking to guys who have not been to the postseason yet. And explaining to them what it's going to feel like, and then you truly get a feel for what you're playing for. As a young player, you're playing for your life, right? Every day you're looking over your shoulder, but then you start getting to a point when you get to the postseason, you're at this point where we're here to win everything, and it's a different vibe.
That's why I want them to make the playoffs this year.
Oh, it's such a good experience for these guys.
For that experience.
And for the city, man. It would be a great push at the end of the year.
All right, from a couple more here. BT, if you could grow facial hair, what style of beard would you do?
Boy, I'd get it. So I'm going from 0 and I'd go to 100. I'd have like one of those huge, enormous beards where you'd be like, oh, look at that guy. How does he even eat food? Or does he have a bird's nest stuck in there? Like, it would be unkept, awful beard.
And final question here. BT, are there lenses and chips red frames?
Yes. Yeah, he does. Those are real glasses that he's wearing. Now, he went aggressive with the red. That's very Sarah Jesse Raphael on those glasses. But they look good on him. He pulls them off. They look awesome. He's got some style. You should see some of the shirts that this dude wears.
It's amazing. When I'm down to the ballpark and I see Chip.
He's got a Pac-Man shirt. He's got flowers. I mean, he's got all kinds of stuff. He's like, who would wear that? Chip. Yep. Chip would wear that, and he pulls it off.
He's Brad Thompson. He's the best in the business for a reason. He pulled off, I think, 13 different words.
Okay, yeah.
13 different words on a broadcast that were given to him by the Cardinals. He'll continue doing fantastic work over at FanDuel Sports Midwest, and we appreciate him hopping in for an hour with us today. By the way, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show, and it is also the place where if you want that 4-day pass for Major League Pickleball next weekend, you could win that right now here on BK and Ferrario. Earlier today, Bradford Bruns gave you an over that he likes in the Big Ten. Who was the team? He said he likes one team, the over on their win total for 2025. If you have the correct team, your texture number 101, you are getting that 4-day pass to see Major League Pickleball next weekend. BT, thanks for coming in, man. Appreciate you.
Hey, that was fun. Anytime. You get bored, especially in the offseason.
We'll give you a call.
Yeah, come on, man.
We'll give you a call. All right, coming up next, they've got the Fast Lane. You guys have a great weekend. We'll talk to you on Monday at 11 a.m. here on BK and Ferrario.
The Redbird Report, your front row seat to all things Cardinals. From the dugout to the diamond, BK and T-Bone go deep with the latest news, notes, and analysis. Watch the Redbird Report on YouTube or listen online at 101ESPN.com.